Chapter 1458. Song Qing-shu couldn't help but exclaim, Rong-er, you're so beautiful. Huang Rong's heart skipped a beat. She suddenly felt that it was a mistake to let him stay here. I'm not one of those little girls who could be deceived by you. Hurry up and wash yourself. I'll find some clean clothes for you. Song Qing-shu jumped down from the windowsill. These wet clothes are really uncomfortable. He quickly took off his clothes and crawled into the bathtub. Huang Rong's face turned red. She hurriedly went to the side to find some clothes. This water smells so good. Song Qing-shu couldn't help but sigh as he shook the water in the bathtub. Hearing his words, Huang Rong almost fell down. She found a set of clothes from the wardrobe and threw it at his face. Hurry up and wash. Don't talk so much. Song Qing-shu's eyes were sharp and his hands were quick to catch it. He smiled and said, Is this brother's clothes? Huang Rong nodded. It's old clothes from before. I hope you don't mind. Song Qing-shu smiled. Since it's something that brother used, it must be of excellent quality. Why would I mind? Huang Rong angrily glared at him. With her intelligence, how could she not understand the hidden meaning behind his words? She was about to explode in anger when Huang Yaoshi's voice came from outside. Rong, come out to eat when you are done. Father has specially boiled some medicine for you to relieve the cold. I'm coming, Huang Rong replied. Then she stared at Song Qing-shu and whispered, I'll go out first. Be smart and don't make any noise. Song Qing-shu waved his hand. Don't worry. I don't want to be driven out by your father again. Huang Rong put on a coat and walked out. At the same time, she carefully closed the door. After she left, Song Qing-shu felt a little dull. Even the water in the bathtub had lost some of its color. He quickly washed and climbed out to put on his clothes. Not long after, a few mute servants pushed open the door and moved the bathtub and other things out. Song Qing-shu, who was hiding in the closet, couldn't help but be glad that he was fast enough. Otherwise, if he was hit by these mute servants, it would really be a little troublesome. After the mute servants packed up and left, Song Qing-shu was bored to death and was too lazy to come out of the wardrobe. Perhaps it was because he was too tired in the past few days, but after staying in the wardrobe for a while, he felt sleepy and simply lay down and fell asleep. After an unknown amount of time, Huang Rong pushed the door open and came in. She saw that everything inside had been cleaned up and even the bathtub was gone. Her expression changed slightly, and at the same time, she blamed herself. It was all because of him that she didn't expect the servants to come and clean up. Did he leave? Huang Rong closed the door and looked around the room. She couldn't see Song Qing-shu, so she couldn't help but mutter to herself. She even ran to the window where Song Qing-shu had appeared earlier and opened it to check. Unfortunately, she still could not hear his voice. It seems that he's really gone. Huang Rong sat down at the table and faintly sighed. Did you suddenly realize that you can't bear to leave me? At this time, she suddenly heard a teasing voice. Huang Rong was startled. She turned around and found Song Qing-shu sitting in the wardrobe, looking at her with a faint smile. You want to die? Huang Rong lightly patted her chest and said angrily, Don't you know that a pregnant person can't take a fright? Song Qing-shu's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly jumped out of the wardrobe and asked with concern, Are you okay? I'm fine. Huang Rong involuntarily pulled away from him. In order to resolve the awkwardness, she took out something from her pocket and handed it to him. You haven't eaten today. You must be hungry. This is for you. Song Qing-shu took it and saw that it was a handkerchief wrapped with some exquisite snacks. However, because it was wrapped in the handkerchief and kept in his pocket, many of the snacks were damaged. He raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, There's still your body temperature. It's warm. Huang Rong blushed and reached out to take it back. Forget it if you don't want to eat it. Song Qing-shu moved faster. He pulled his hand back and dodged. Who said I don't want to eat it? As he spoke, he threw a piece into his mouth and said in a muffled voice, Well, the snacks on Peach Blossom Island are really delicious. Hearing his praise, Huang Rong smiled. She thoughtfully poured a glass of water and handed it to him. Be careful. Don't choke. Song Qing-shu drank the water in one gulp and couldn't help but sigh. A wife is really more considerate than a girl. Huang Rong glared at him with her beautiful eyes. She was obviously a little dissatisfied with the way he addressed her. My father is very smart. I didn't dare to bring food and wine for you under his eyes. I could only find some snacks in the kitchen. You have to make do with it. I'm not that precious. Song Qing-shu waved the snacks in his hand. Moreover, this is very delicious. Did you make it? In your dreams. I don't have the time. Huang Rong rolled her eyes. Song Qing-shu regretfully shook his head. I've long heard that Rong's cooking is unparalleled in the world. It's a pity that I've never had the luck to taste the food you made. Huang Rong opened her mouth, but in the end, she didn't promise anything. Oh no, what if my father suddenly passes by and hears your voice? Huang Rong suddenly realized this big problem. Song Qing-shu shook his head. Don't worry, I'm fully activated now. If someone comes near, I'll notice it in advance. Huang Rong looked at him in surprise. But my father is not an ordinary master. She had spoken very tactfully. Huang Yaoshe was one of the 5 greats of the Central Plains. He was one of the top masters in the world. Therefore, she was very worried that Song Qing-shu wouldn't be able to notice him in time. It shouldn't be a problem. Song Qing-shu lightly said. There was a kind of transcendent temperament in his tone. Huang Rong showed a strange expression. Finally, she sighed. I don't know how you practice martial arts at such a young age. Song Qing-shu said with a smile. In fact, I don't mind telling you how I practice martial arts. I'm just afraid that you won't want to hear it. Huang Rong was stunned. How can I not want to hear it? She was also a person of Jianghu. Moreover, she had always been curious about the unknown. How could she not want to know such a secret? Come closer. I'll tell you. Song Qing-shu's smile seemed to hide something else. Unexpectedly, not only did Huang Rong not come closer, but she also shrank back. She looked at him with some wariness. Why do you want to come so close? Song Qing-shu said mysteriously. As the saying goes, the secret cannot be passed to 6 ears. If you're not interested, then forget it. Huang Rong showed an expression of struggle. In the end, the curiosity in her heart won. She hesitantly moved closer. Don't try to fool me. Song Qing-shu smiled, and just as he moved closer to her ear, he asked. There was a faint fragrance on her body. He couldn't help but sigh that Huang Rong was indeed a combination of heaven and earth. Even though she had been married for many years, her body was still much more fragrant than most girls. The martial arts I practice requires. Song Qing-shu whispered in her ear. His lips seemed to touch her earlobe. Feeling the hot breath of the man next to her, Huang Rong's white neck was visible to the naked eye. She hurriedly moved back. Forget it. I don't want to hear it anymore. Song Qing-shu shrugged and didn't force her. In order to dispel the awkward atmosphere in the room, Huang Rong deliberately led the topic to other places. Then the two of them casually chatted. They talked like this for a long time. Huang Rong yawned and suddenly asked, Where will you sleep tonight? Song Qing-shu looked at her quietly. I don't know if you'll take me in. Huang Rong spat and said with a red face, How can I take you in? Song Qing-shu pointed to the storm outside, which still showed no signs of stopping. But the storm outside is so strong, and it's raining so heavily. You won't be so cruel to drive me out, will you? I will take you to the room of Xiaowu and Xiao. Huang Rong stood up and said, It should be known that the Peach Blossom Island used to be the home of her husband and wife, Kuzhun-yi, Guofu, Xiaowu, and a group of servants. How could there be a lack of houses? Song Qing-shu frowned. Xiaowu and Xiaowu? No, I'm worried that I will be contaminated by their bad luck. Huang Rong almost choked. In fact, she was not very satisfied with the 2 silly apprentices. She thought that it was normal for a person like Song Qing-shu to look down on them. Then I will take you to live in eunuch Ku's room. Huang Rong added, Because he is Brother Jing's master, Brother Jing respects him very much. He has prepared the best room for him. Recently, he has gone out to play, so you can live there. That stinky and stubborn blind old man? Song Qing-shu snorted. I don't like him. I won't live there. If Brother Jing hears this, I am afraid he will have a good argument with you. Huang Rong pursed her lips and smiled. In fact, she did not like Kuzhun-yi very much, but because of Gui Jing, she could not show it. Now that she heard Song Qing-shu say this, she could not help but feel that he was a close friend. "Forget it. I will let you live in Fuer's room," Huang Rong said helplessly. There were many empty rooms, but because no one had lived in them, there was not even basic bedding, and there was a lot of dust. Now it was impossible to decorate it with great fanfare. After all, a little carelessness would alarm her father. As for Guofu's room, because of the incident of cutting off Yang Guo's arm some time ago, she came back to avoid the limelight and lived on Peach Blossom Island for a period of time until Huang Rong and Guo Jing were going. Huang Rong was worried that Peach Blossom Island was too close to Linen, so she quietly told her to leave early. So not long after she left, the room was fully furnished and carefully cared for by the servants. Naturally, the conditions were the best. Song Qing-shu frowned slightly. "Guofu is still an unmarried girl. Is it not good for a man like me to live in her boudoir? You are a gentleman at this time." Huang Rong rolled her eyes. "Why? Do you want to live in my room?" Song Qing-shu nodded seriously. "Yes, I think living here is the best choice." Huang Rong suddenly changed her expression. "What?" Chapter 1459. Huang Rong was furious. "Didn't you just say that you would know if someone came near? Even a master like my father is no exception." Song Qing-shu really wanted to swallow the words he had just said. He thought to himself that he could not show off in the future, or else it would be easy for him to shoot himself in the foot. "What I said was when I was awake. How could I be so alert when I was asleep? If it was someone else, I might have noticed. But when a master like your father comes near, I'm not a god. I can't react quickly." Huang Rong frowned. She had to admit that the other party's words made sense. If he were to stay in another room, there was a high chance that he would be discovered by her father. He could only stay in her room. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is the safest place. We're a married woman and a married man. We're alone. You can't stay here. Although Huang Rong was a little hesitant, she still refused after thinking about it. Song Qing-shu shrugged and didn't continue to force her. "What you said makes sense. I'll go find a place to spend the night. You should rest early." He smiled at her and quickly disappeared out of the window. Huang Rong opened her mouth, but in the end, she withdrew her hand. What could she do even if she called out to him? Could she make him stay here? Lying on the bed, Huang Rong stared at the top of the bed in a daze. She was originally very sleepy, but she couldn't fall asleep no matter what. She thought about too many things and recalled too many things. In the end, her thoughts were flying and her heart was in a mess. Boom! Suddenly, a white flash of lightning flashed outside the window, followed by a horrible thunder. The power of heaven and earth was on full display at this moment. Huang Rong struggled. Finally, she sat up on the bed, put on her clothes, and picked up the umbrella. She couldn't stop worrying. She decided to go out and check on Song Qing-shu. It's raining heavily. I wonder where he is. Huang Rong bit her lips and stood there in a daze for a while. Peach Blossom Island wasn't small. It wasn't easy to find a person. But Huang Rong wasn't going to wander around. She thought carefully. He didn't want to stay in another room. Did he go back to my mother's tomb? That's the safest place. No, he just took a bath and changed his clothes. He shouldn't rush into the rain again. It's uncomfortable to be drenched. Huang Rong denied her initial guess and finally decided to look in the nearby rooms. As soon as she opened the door, Huang Rong felt a chill even though she was wrapped in a coat. But she still walked out and searched in those empty rooms. She first looked for her daughter's room, but found nothing. Then she went to the rooms of Xiaowu and Xiaowu, but she still found nothing. Suddenly, she thought that Qin Haodong only ate a few cakes today. Could he have gone to the kitchen? Huang Rong lifted her skirt and walked quickly to the kitchen. She didn't expect that she would run into Huang Rong. It's so late. What are you doing here? Huang Yaoshe looked at her. Huang Rong reacted quickly and answered without hesitation. I'm suddenly hungry, so I'm going to the kitchen to cook something. You can ask the mute servants to do it. Huang Yaoshe looked at his daughter with pity. It's not convenient for you to do this when you're pregnant. Huang Rong didn't lower her voice because she was worried that Song Qing-shu was hiding in the kitchen. She hoped that he would hear the noise and hide in advance. Not bad. Those people can't catch up with you when it comes to cooking. Huang Yaoshe nodded. I'll go with you. I can help you. Not bad. In terms of cooking skills, those people can't catch up to you. Huang Yaoshe nodded. I'll go with you. I can even help you. Huang Yaoshe snorted. His face was a little ugly. It's because of Song Qing-shu. I suspect that he hasn't left the island, so I'm looking around. Huang Yaoshe snorted. His complexion was somewhat unsightly. It's all because of that brat Song Qing-shu. I suspect that he hasn't left the island, so I'm looking around. Huang Yaoshe snorted. His face was a little ugly. Are you worried about him? Huang Rong glanced at her. Are you worried about him? Huang Rong hurriedly shook her head and said guiltily, Why would I be worried about him? That's good. Huang Yaoshe snorted. You can't have any contact with him anymore. I know. Huang Rong pouted. She didn't know why, but she felt as if she had returned to the time when she and Jinggu were in love, but were separated by her father. It was a familiar feeling. I know you don't like it, but you are a married woman. Don't make a mistake. Huang Yaoshe's voice was cold as he warned her again. I know. Huang Rong was a little annoyed. She couldn't help but snort. Father, don't you like Tang Wu and Zhou Kong? Why are you like those old scholars? Huang Yaoshe's face darkened. Father doesn't care about worldly etiquette, but he cares about love. If you made up your mind to leave Guijing, I won't say anything. But since you've chosen him, you can't have any other thoughts. Moreover, that Song boy has only been famous for a few years. He's already caused a lot of trouble in Jianghu. Even someone like me, who doesn't care about Jianghu matters, has heard a lot about him. How can such a man have true love? Huang Yaoshe loved his wife, Feng Heng, wholeheartedly. Naturally, he hated unfaithful people. So even though he didn't like Guijing, he hated frivolous wastrels like Song Qing-shu even more. All right, I'm not stupid. Huang Rong's expression darkened. In fact, she had already thought this through. The father and daughter chatted in the kitchen while cooking. They hadn't seen each other for many years and naturally had a lot to talk about. Time slowly passed. Looking at the dishes on the plate, Huang Yaoshe couldn't help but frown. You're pregnant. Can you still eat these things? Huang Rong's eyes flashed. I don't know why, but I've been very hungry these days. I want to eat meat. Is that so? Huang Yaoshe looked at her thoughtfully. Father, do you want to try some? Huang Rong hurriedly asked. I don't eat at night. Huang Yaoshe shook his head. You're pregnant and the floor is slippery after the rain. I'll help you bring it to your room. No need, I'm not that delicate. Huang Rong was worried that Song Qing-shu would suddenly run back to her room. How about you let her father go? Huang Yaoshe suddenly asked. You're not hiding something shameful in your room, are you? Of course not. I'm just afraid that you'll be tired. Huang Rong knew that her father had always been astute. Now that he was suspicious, if she continued to refuse, he might really guess something. I'm one of the 5 greats of the Central Plains. How can carrying something be tiring? When Huang Yaoshe mentioned his status as one of the 5 greats, he couldn't help but think of how he could only fight Song Qing-shu to a draw with one hand. His face darkened. Then I'll have to trouble father. Huang Rong pursed her lips and smiled. After Huang Yaoshe sent his daughter back to her room, his sharp eyes swept the surroundings. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. It seems that I was overthinking things. Rong is not that absurd. When Huang Rong saw that Song Qing-shu wasn't there, she couldn't help but secretly let out a sigh of relief. At the same time, a bit of melancholy rose in her heart. Could it be that they were going to silently part like this? All right, it's getting late. Eat and rest early. Father won't disturb you any longer. Dispelling the doubts in his heart, Huang Yaoshe felt relaxed. After walking to the door, he thought for a moment and then threw a lemon from his sleeve onto the table. He used a clever softness. Although he threw it from a distance, the lemon landed lightly on the table without making the slightest sound. You're pregnant. Eat so much greasy food. Be careful of nausea and vomiting. When you eat, squeeze some lemon juice to suppress it. Thank you, Father. Seeing her father so caring, Huang Rong couldn't help but feel a trace of warmth in her heart. After sending off her father, Huang Rong sat down at the table. She didn't touch the food that she had painstakingly cooked. Instead, she rested her chin on her hand and stared blankly. Did he really leave? At this time, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled outside. Huang Rong's heart palpitated. She couldn't help but walk to the window and open it. Looking at the dark night sky and the storm outside, she couldn't help but frown and said, "It's raining so heavily. Where can you go? Are you worried about me?" At this time, a voice came from below. Huang Rong was startled. She looked down and saw Song Qingshu huddled under the windowsill, looking at her with a smile. "Why are you hiding here?" Huang Rong was angry and amused at the same time. Although they were under the eaves, the wind and rain outside would blow from time to time. Everywhere around them was soaked. Only a foot around him was dry. Presumably, he had been using his internal energy to prevent the rain from blowing on his body. Song Qingshu smiled bitterly and said, "Your father is patrolling everywhere like a thief. Where can I hide? I think your place is the safest. If you don't let me in, I can only hide in the corner outside." Looking at his pitiful appearance, Huang Rong knew that he was pretending, but she also felt a little apologetic. After all, with Song Qingshu's martial arts, he wasn't afraid of her father at all. The reason why he was hiding was mainly because he was worried about her face. "Come in first, then we'll talk." Huang Rong took the umbrella to shield him from the wind and rain outside. Now that things had come to this, Song Qingshu naturally wouldn't be polite. With a light leap, he jumped in through the window and said, "What smells so good?" Huang Rong pointed at the delicacies on the table and said, "I just made it in the kitchen. If you don't mind, you can eat it." Song Qingshu was overjoyed. "Rong, O's cooking is unparalleled in the world. I can't be more happy. Why would I mind?" He hadn't eaten much today, except for a few pieces of pastries. Now he could be considered to be hungry. "Did you specially make this for me?" Looking at the several delicacies that looked and smelled good, Song Qingshu couldn't help but swallow his saliva. "In your dreams," Huang Rong spat. "It's only because I bumped into father near the kitchen. In order not to arouse his suspicion, I casually made it." Looking at her slightly red face, Song Qingshu smiled and didn't ask any more questions. His attention returned to the dishes she made. Salt and pepper mantis shrimp, stir-fried flower crab with ginger and scallion. Wait, the remaining dish is oysters. What's wrong with oysters? Huang Rong looked confused. Because this is the only seafood on the island. Chapter 1460. Hearing Song Qingshu's words, Huang Rong blushed and reached out to take it back. "I'm going to throw it away." However, Song Qingshu moved faster. He put the oyster behind him and said with a smile, "It's a pity to throw away such a good thing. It's not what you think." Huang Rong was about to cry. She was chatting with her father and cooking with a heavy heart. She took some ingredients and didn't expect there to be such a big misunderstanding. "I know you don't mean that. I'm just teasing you." Song Qingshu dodged and picked up a piece to eat. "Well, it's fresh and tender. It's really the best." Huang Rong tried several times but couldn't take the oyster back from his hand. She could only give up and sulk at the table. Song Qingshu stopped teasing her and sat down at the table again. "Ronger, let's eat together. Eat your head." Huang Rong glared at him. "I'm not hungry. You eat by yourself." Song Qingshu wanted to tease her a little more, but seeing her unfriendly face, he was worried that he would really annoy her, so he swallowed his words. He was already a little hungry, so he quickly finished the seafood on the table. It's really a blessing to be born by the sea. People on the mainland don't have such good food. It was difficult for him to eat such fresh seafood in the Jin Kingdom's palace. After all, there were no refrigerators or quick freezing technology in this world. Long-distance transportation of seafood was a huge problem. "Yes, I haven't been back to Peach Blossom Island for so many years. I miss life on the island," Huang Rong said sincerely. Huang Rong said from the bottom of her heart. After all, compared to the chaos of war in Xiangyang, Peach Blossom Island had more beautiful memories. The two of them continued to chat for a while, and Huang Rong couldn't help yawning again. She felt strange in her heart. Just now, she was obviously very sleepy, but she couldn't sleep. Why did she want to sleep now that she found him? Song Qingshu also saw her fatigue. "You've been busy the whole day, and you want to cook so many dishes. You must be tired. Go and rest early." "Oh," Huang Rong responded, but she didn't move. "Then where are you going?" "Of course I'll continue to stay under the windowsill. Now that I'm full, I have more energy to resist the wind and rain. Song Qing-shu smiled nonchalantly. However, Huang Rong instantly saw through his intentions. You don't have to pretend to be pitiful. Aren't you just trying to make me feel compassionate and let you stay in the room? Song Qing-shu smiled awkwardly. It's so stormy outside. It would be best if Rong could keep me in the house. Huang Rong blushed and did not speak for a long time. Just when Song Qing-shu thought it was over, she suddenly said in a low voice, "Then you sleep on the floor." After saying that, she got onto the bed and lay down with her clothes on, leaving only her back view for him to see. Song Qing-shu was startled at first, then overjoyed. "Thank you, Rong." Huang Rong snorted and ignored him. After the initial joy, Song Qing-shu couldn't help but feel a headache. "Do you have any extra blankets or something?" "No," Huang Rong answered rather stiffly. Song Qing-shu looked at the cold floor and wondered if he really had to sleep on the floor for the whole night. After hesitating for a moment, he finally made up his mind and jumped directly onto the bed. "What are you doing?" Huang Rong was frightened by him and asked in a panic. "Don't worry, I won't do anything to offend you," Song Qing-shu explained. "The main thing is that I can't sleep on the floor, so I'm borrowing your bed." Huang Rong was so angry that she laughed. "You're really insatiable. No matter how bad the floor is, it's better than under the windowsill, right? It seems that I'm too soft-hearted." Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly. As the saying goes, the courageous die from overeating and the timid die from starvation. Now that things have come to this, I can only summon up the courage to try. Ronger, since you've decided to be a good person, then you should be a good person until the end. "No, this is improper." Huang Rong sat up with a resolute expression. "Get down," Song Qing-shu said seriously. "Rong, if I really wanted to do anything to you, I had plenty of opportunities along the way. Moreover, with my martial arts, if I wanted to do anything to you now, you wouldn't be able to resist at all. Even if you alerted your father, it would be useless." "Are you threatening me?" Huang Rong's expression turned cold. Song Qing-shu shook his head. "It's not a threat. I just want to make it clear to you that I have no evil intentions towards you, and I promise that I won't do anything to offend you." Huang Rong's expression changed several times. It was obvious that she was in a fierce psychological struggle. On one hand, she knew that he was not lying, but on the other hand, as a woman, it was difficult for her to accept his request. Song Qing-shu suddenly revealed a bright smile. "If you still don't believe me, you can look at how pure and innocent my expression is right now. You'll know what a bright and great person I am." Huang Rong's tensed face could no longer hold back. She burst out laughing. "It's rare to see someone as thick-skinned as you." "Then you agree," Song Qing-shu said happily. Huang Rong directly turned her back to him, no longer speaking. Song Qing-shu knew that she was thin-skinned and didn't want to admit it, so he tactfully didn't pursue the matter. After a while, Huang Rong finally felt that something was wrong. "I'll say the ugly words first. I have a knife on me. When the time comes, you can come and cut off my hand and cut off my foot." Although she knew that there was a difference in martial arts between them, such a threat was somewhat powerless. She still wanted to clearly express her attitude. Seeing that Song Qing-shu didn't answer, Huang Rong frowned. She turned around and was about to explode, but who knew that she would hear him snoring lightly. "Your acting is quite good." Huang Rong curled her lips. With her intelligence, she naturally didn't believe that Song Qing-shu would fall asleep so quickly. But she also understood that he deliberately made a gesture to reassure her. If it were before, she would never agree to let Song Qing-shu come to bed. But this time from Lin and to Peach Blossom Island, the time they spent together and the conversation along the way made her understand his heart. She knew that although he was a little romantic, he was not such an unscrupulous villain. In particular, some of Song Qing-shu's knowledge and speech from the later generations made her admire him very much. At first, she still braced herself against him, worried that he would do something wrong. But soon she felt that her eyelids were heavy, and she became more and more sleepy. "I can't sleep, I can't sleep," Huang Rong kept telling herself. But his breathing has stabilized. He must have fallen asleep. At this time, another voice sounded in her mind. In this dilemma, She finally couldn't stand it and fell asleep. After a long time, Huang Rong suddenly felt something in her heart. She opened her eyes and looked to the side. She saw Song Qingshu's eyes shining in the dark. "You haven't slept yet?" Huang Rong looked out the window. The sky was faintly white, which was the time when people slept most soundly. "I can't sleep," Song Qingshu replied with a smile. "Oh." Huang Rong didn't know what to say to him. Suddenly, Song Qingshu asked, "Can I touch the baby in your belly?" Huang Rong subconsciously wanted to refuse, but she didn't know why she hesitated when she was about to say it. She just said yes imperceptibly. Seeing that she acquiesced, Song Qingshu reached out and put his hand on her slightly bulging belly. Feeling the heat of his palm, Huang Rong couldn't help but tremble. "Did he just kick me?" Song Qingshu suddenly looked up in surprise. Huang Rong snappily smiled and said, "It's only been a few months. How could he kick you?" She had experienced it once and knew that it would be a few months before the child in her belly could kick someone. "But I can feel him." Song Qingshu gently stroked her belly. Huang Rong's body stiffened. Although she didn't want to admit it, his hand was very gentle and felt very comfortable. She even hoped that he could touch her like this forever. After a while, his hand gradually moved up. Her heart was about to jump out of her throat. Now that things had come to this, she couldn't continue to pretend that she didn't know. She grabbed his hand and bit her lip, saying angrily, "You promised before that you wouldn't offend me. If you didn't want to, of course it was an offense. If you were willing, then it naturally isn't an offense." Song Qingshu smiled like an old fox. Huang Rong opened her mouth. She clearly knew that this wouldn't do, but she didn't know why she couldn't refuse. Seeing that she acquiesced, Song Qingshu took advantage of the situation and pressed his whole body against hers. His other hand also reached over and pulled her into his embrace. Huang Rong couldn't help but admit that his hand seemed to have some kind of supreme magic. Soon, her breathing quickened and her body gradually became weak. This won't do. Her remaining rationality made her want to push him away, but when she touched his hot body, she was touched by something that made her heart palpitate. "Why not?" Song Qingshu moved closer to her ear and said gently. The ear was a very sensitive place for Huang Rong. Feeling the heat of his breath, her whole body trembled. "Father said that if I choose Brother Jing, I must completely cut off all ties with Song Qingshu. It seems that it makes sense." Huang Rong recalled her father's warning. "Let's indulge for the last time. After tonight, we will be strangers." Huang Rong made up her mind. The heavy pressure that had been weighing on her seemed to be swept away. "I can give it to you, but you have to promise me one thing." Huang Rong pressed against Song Qingshu's chest and noticed the desire in his eyes. Her heart couldn't help but tremble. "What thing?" Song Qingshu's voice was extremely hoarse. "After tonight, we will have nothing to do with each other," Huang Rong murmured. "Okay." Song Qingshu agreed without hesitation. Seeing that he agreed so quickly, Huang Rong's heart flashed with a hint of disappointment. But because of this, she suddenly felt relieved. If he kept pestering her, she really wouldn't know what to do. "Don't press against my stomach," Huang Rong suddenly whispered and pushed the man on top of her away. "Then what should I do?" Song Qingshu clearly didn't have this kind of experience and was at a loss for a moment. Huang Rong looked at him charmingly, then bit her lip and climbed up to kneel on the bed. She was much bolder than usual. "Like this." "Be gentler." The man behind her let out a roar and held onto her waist as he leaned against her. The man's heavy breathing and the woman's sweet moans quickly rang out in the room. Because she thought that this was the last time she indulged, Huang Rong was no longer restrained by the usual etiquette. She very actively cooperated with the man behind her, constantly making her soul tremble. "Bastard! How dare you defile my daughter like this?" At this time, the door was suddenly smashed open, followed by Huang Yaoshi's angry roar. Chapter 1461. Huang Rong's pretty face instantly turned red. She was shy and embarrassed. How could I have such a dream? Suddenly, she noticed that there was something strange about her thigh. She subconsciously reached out and touched it. It was sticky, making her wish that there was a hole to hide in. It's just a dream. Is there a need to be so emotional? Huang Rong's cheeks were burning at this time. She looked to the side guiltily. Fortunately, Song Qing-shu was sleeping soundly and didn't notice her strangeness. She was slightly relieved. Her whole body was sticky and uncomfortable. Huang Rong wanted to take a bath first, but it was already late. Naturally, it was not convenient to ask the servants to prepare water. Moreover, as soon as she got up, she felt that her whole body was very weak. It seemed that everything in the dream had exhausted her strength. She had no choice but to lie down again. But after so many twists and turns, she couldn't fall asleep. She quietly looked at the side of the man beside her. For a moment, she couldn't help but be a little dazed. People say that what you think in the day, you dream at night. I dreamed of him. Is this the true thought in my heart? Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Then Huang Rong spent the rest of her time in such a perturbed and struggling mood. The sky gradually became bright. When Song Qing-shu opened his eyes, he was shocked to see Huang Rong's tired and listless eyes. Rong, or what's wrong with you? Huang Rong finally woke up from that muddle-headed state. Seeing Song Qing-shu's face, the image of her taking the initiative to kneel in front of him appeared in her mind. Her face suddenly turned red again. No, nothing. Song Qing-shu reached out to touch her forehead and frowned. It's a little hot. You seem to be sweating a lot. Did you catch a cold after being drenched in the rain yesterday? No. Huang Rong's eyes flickered and said guiltily. Then she got up and put on her coat. She thought that she must ask the servants to prepare hot water for a bath. Otherwise, her body would be too uncomfortable. Worried that he would see something unusual, Huang Rong hurriedly said, "It's just that I was worried that you would do something improper last night, so I couldn't sleep." Song Qing-shu couldn't help but smile bitterly. "In your heart, am I so untrustworthy?" Huang Rong snorted. Thinking of the dream she had last night, she became more and more irritated. Song Qing-shu also got off the bed. After putting on his clothes, he ran to the window to take a look. He couldn't help but exclaim in joy. The storm has actually stopped. Huang Rong was startled. The storm had come and gone suddenly. Based on her experience of growing up on the island, such storms would usually last for a few days. I have to take this opportunity to leave. Otherwise, when the storm comes again, I will be trapped here forever. Song Qing-shu thought of how the Southern Song dynasty was preparing for the northern expedition. There were too many things to arrange in the Jin kingdom, leaving him less and less time. Then I won't keep you. If it was yesterday, Huang Rong might have felt a little lost at such a hasty farewell. However, after that absurd dream last night, she didn't know how to face him now. She couldn't wait for him to leave so that she could calm down. Rong, take care of your pregnancy on the island. The Central Plains is very dangerous now. Don't go back for the time being. Song Qing-shu thought of all the dangers Huang Rong had encountered during her pregnancy and couldn't help but remind her. Yes, I know. Huang Rong nodded absent-mindedly. At this moment, the melodious sound of a flute was suddenly heard not far away. Apparently, Huang Yaosher had woken up. The two people in the room were shocked. I really have to go. If your father finds out that I spent the night in your room, it would be strange if he didn't fight me to the death. Song Qing-shu hurriedly said. He could foresee that this kind of fight would be very unfair. The other party would risk his life to kill you, but you couldn't hurt him. Huang Rong was also a little flustered. She pushed him to the window at the back of the room and said, Then go quickly. I won't keep you. Song Qing-shu's figure flashed and jumped out. Just when Huang Rong was faintly disappointed, he showed his face again and said, When I have time, I will come to Peach Blossom Island to see you. Huang Rong spat and said, Who wants you to see me? Song Qing-shu laughed out loud and disappeared out of the window. Huang Rong walked to the window and looked in the direction in which he disappeared. For a moment, there was a somewhat complicated expression on her face. Rong, I seem to hear a man's laughter in your room. At this moment, Huang Yaosher pushed open the door and walked in. He looked around suspiciously. Huang Rong's heart jumped. She quickly turned around and squeezed out a trace of smile. Father, how could there be a man's voice in my room? As she said this, she stealthily wiped away the footprints of Song Qing's shoe on the windowsill. Is that so? Huang Yaoshe looked around but found nothing. Suddenly, he noticed Huang Rong's tired face. He could not help but be surprised and said, "How come your complexion is worse than yesterday? I didn't sleep well last night." Huang Rong's face turned red. Of course, it was not convenient for her to tell him the real reason. So, she could only explain, "Maybe it's because I just came back and I'm not used to it." While Huang Rong was having a battle of wits with her father, Song Qingshu had already arrived at the seaside. Yesterday, Huang Rong had explained to him the traps on the island, so the dense forest naturally could not stop him. When he arrived at the seaside, he found a pier. Presumably, it was used by the people of Peach Blossom Island when they left the island. The people on the island had many years of experience living on the sea, so they hid their boats in some hidden places so they were not damaged by yesterday's storm. Song Qingshu pushed one of the boats into the sea, but suddenly he was in a bit of a dilemma. He tried the boat's sail and oars, but he could not control the strength of the boat. He could only spin in place. Do I have to go back to the island and find a mute servant to operate the boat? Song Qingshu was speechless, but in the end, he gave up the idea, mainly because he was worried that the mute servant would later reveal what happened today. At that time, Huang Rong's reputation would be damaged. Although the mute servant could not speak, he still had many ways to pass messages. Song Qingshu really could not kill him cold-bloodedly, so he had to give up the idea of looking for a mute servant. In the past, Dharma could cross the river on a reed. Can I cross the sea on a boat? Song Qingshu's arrogance also rose. He simply did not use oars and sails, but directly drove the boat to leave the island with his internal strength. Fortunately, he had been in this world for many years, and with his previous experience of marching and fighting, he used all kinds of knowledge to determine the direction of the boat. Otherwise, if he got the direction wrong, no matter how strong his internal strength was, he would not be able to cross the Pacific Ocean. Fortunately, Peach Blossom Island was not far from the mainland. Song Qingshu found the right direction, and after a few hours, he finally landed on the shore. When he landed on the shore, he even had an illusion that the ground was shaking, and he could not help but look pale. I have to find a time to learn how to sail a boat. Otherwise, I will be like Jiu Maji in the original work, who was skilled in martial arts but almost died in the water because of two little girls. That would be a tragedy. He found a farmer nearby and asked about the name of the place. Roughly estimating that it was not too far from Ningbo, he went all the way to the northwest and finally entered Shanin City when it was getting dark. It seems that the murder in Shenyuan had a big impact. The number of soldiers at the gate is several times more than usual. The reason why Song Qingshu returned to this place was because this was the only way he could go north, and also because he had promised Lu Wushuang that he would come back to see her. As the saying goes, he would rather betray the world than the beauty. How could he bear to let a little girl be sad and disappointed? At this time, Lu Wushuang was in a daze in her room, and she kept muttering to herself, Brother Song, will you come back to see me? I have delayed it for so long. I have to leave tomorrow no matter what." She and Cheng Ying had agreed to continue saving her best friend Shen Bijuan, and they should have left a long time ago. But Lu Wushuang remembered the promise Song Qingshu made before he left, so she kept finding all kinds of reasons to not leave. Cheng Ying had no choice but to leave first and let her catch up later, so she could stay in Shanin City for a few more days. But in the past 2 days, Lu Wushuang had received many messages from her cousin, and she knew she could not delay it any longer. She decided to meet up with her cousin first thing in the morning. "Maybe he's already forgotten about me," Lu Wushuang said in self-pity. "Who has forgotten about you?" At this time, she suddenly heard a familiar voice. Lu Wushuang turned around in disbelief and was stunned to see the man she had been thinking about day and night sitting on the window. "Brother Song?" Lu Wushuang called out with some uncertainty. "Wushuang, I made you wait for a long time." Seeing her slightly red and swollen eyes, Song Qingshu said with pity, "Brother Song." After confirming that she was not dreaming, Lu Wushuang could no longer hold it in, and excitedly threw herself into his arms and began to cry. With a warm and fragrant body in his arms, Song Qing-shu gently patted the girl's back to comfort her, but suddenly his expression became a bit strange. He didn't know if it was because of the oyster he ate last night, or because of Huang Rong's stimulation, but he was now extremely sensitive, and the girl's body instantly reacted. Lu Wushuang clearly also realized something, and with a coquettish grunt, her body became even more soft. Seeing that the atmosphere in the room was becoming more and more ambiguous, Song Qing-shu's ears suddenly twitched, and with a serious expression, he looked outside the room. Someone is coming. Lu Wushuang was startled. At this time, there were gradually noises coming from outside. She opened the window a little and saw a group of bailiffs walking over. "Brother Song, you should hide for a while." Lu Wushuang was after all a virgin, and if people found out that she was secretly meeting with a man in her room, she would be too ashamed to see anyone. Song Qing-shu nodded. His identity was sensitive, and it was indeed not appropriate to meet with the officials of the Southern Song dynasty. Not long after he hid, the door was pushed open from the outside. The leader had an oval face, red phoenix eyes, and a beautiful appearance. It was the eldest daughter of the Shui family, Shui Baochai. Why is she here? Hidden in the dark. Song Qing-shu was very puzzled. Soon, Shui Baochai's words dispelled his doubts. "Miss Lu, we suspect that you have something to do with the Shun family extermination case, and we hope that you will come with us." Lu Wushuang had not yet recovered from the joy she had just experienced, and when she heard the bad news, she could not help but be startled. "What did you say?" "I hope that Miss Lu will forgive us," Shui Baochai said lightly. "The Imperial City Department has accepted the Shun family extermination case, and after a period of investigation, we have finally found some clues. On the night of the incident, someone saw you and your cousin rushing in the direction of the Shun family, and I specifically asked the servant girls in your residence. That night, you and your cousin did not return, so you are a major suspect." "Nonsense." Lu Wushuang had always been straightforward and immediately retorted, "My cousin and I went to investigate the case of Bijuan's disappearance. Besides, Bijuan is our good friend. Why would we harm her family?" Chapter 1462. As soon as Shui Baochai gave the order, a few subordinates of the Imperial City Guards surrounded Lu Wushuang. Lu Wushuang's expression changed several times before he finally gave up resisting. "Fine, I'll go with you. The Lu clan won't let you accuse me." Song Qing-shu, who was in the dark, frowned. He could tell that Lu Wushuang was hinting for him not to show up. After all, if his identity was exposed, there would be a lot of trouble. He knew that Lu Wushuang had always been reckless, but now she was so considerate and considerate. He couldn't help but feel touched. At this time, the guards had already taken Lu Wushuang away. The other people in the Lu family also received the news. They were all angry and wanted to find the guard of Shanin City for an explanation. Of course, Song Qing-shu didn't go with them. He was deep in thought. It wasn't difficult to save Lu Wushuang. It wasn't difficult for him to deal with the guards. What was difficult was what to do next. If he used force to save Lu Wushuang, wouldn't she be a suspect? Then she would be wanted by the court. She would be unable to return to her home and could only hide in the dark. The key is how to clear her suspicion. Song Qing-shu thought for a while and quickly came up with a plan. Shui Baochai brought Lu Wushuang back to the base of the Imperial City Department in Shanin and immediately interrogated her. "That night, did you and your cousin go to Shenyuan?" Lu Wushuang opened her mouth, but suddenly thought that if she admitted it, there would be a lot of trouble. As if guessing what she was thinking, Shui Baochai snorted. "You don't need to deny it. We have found a witness and confirmed that you did go to Shenyuan that night." Lu Wushuang raised her chin and said angrily, "Why ask if you know?" "Yes, we went to Shenyuan that night, because Bijuan is a good friend of ours. This time, she disappeared, so we went to Shenyuan to find some clues." "Find clues?" Shui Baochai didn't comment on her answer. "Then why did you disappear when the constables arrived?" Lu Wushuang explained. "We were just worried that meeting the constables would cause unnecessary trouble, so we deliberately avoided them." She didn't want to involve Song Qing-shu, so she simply ignored some information. But you didn't return to the Lu Fu that night. Shweb Baochai crossed her arms in front of her chest, circling around her and scrutinizing her. According to the recollections of the soldiers guarding the city, the two of you only returned to the city the next morning. I sent someone to ask the servant girls in the Lu Fu, and they confirmed that you didn't return that night. Tell me, why did you leave the city? Lu Wushuang didn't know what to say. She suddenly remembered the scene in the stream that night and had an idea. We went out of the city to take a bath. Bath? Shweb Baochai's eyes sharpened. You just found out that your good friend's family was killed. Not only did you not report it to the authorities, but you still have the mood to take a bath? I'm afraid he was covered in blood and went out of the city to destroy evidence. Nonsense. Lu Wushuang panicked. I told you that we're friends with Bijuan. Why would we hurt her family? Maybe you deliberately approached Miss Shun for the secret of the Mandarin duck knife and became friends with her. The suspicion in Shweb Baochai's eyes grew stronger. Is Miss Shun's disappearance related to you? Because Shun Bijuan was the future crown princess, the Imperial City Department was under a lot of pressure. But there had been no progress in the case. Now that they finally found a clue, how could they not pursue it? Don't slander others. Don't try to frame good people just because you can't solve the case. Lu Wushuang had always been very picky and couldn't help retorting. Frame? Shweb Baochai snorted. We found that after you entered the city, you went to an inn in the east of the city and took some things as a gift. According to the inn owner, those things were left by a man and a woman. Are they your accomplices? Lu Wushuang was secretly shocked. She didn't expect her investigation to be so thorough. She even found out that they went back to the inn to take the things for Song Qing-shu and Huang Rong. Shweb Baochai moved in front of her and said step by step, Did the few of you work together to create the massacre of the Shun family? Then you sent them out of the city and came back to remove the evidence? Seeing that there were more and more flaws in their story, Lu Wushuang suddenly panicked. She subconsciously replied, We are also victims, okay? When we rushed to Shenyuan that day, the murderer just happened to come out. We were no match for him, so that person gave us poison. Luckily, he heard the bailiffs rushing over, and the murderer didn't care about us and hurriedly ran away. The two of us sisters were about to die from the poison, but our friend saved us, so we left the city. Although she was panicking, she was still a bit clever. She told the story with 70% truth and 30% lies. Shweb Baochai was indeed moved. You said that you saw the murderer? What did the murderer look like? The murderer was wearing a mask, so we couldn't see his face. He was about 30 or 40 years old and had a tall figure. Lu Wushuang recalled as she described. Shweb Baochai quickly ordered her subordinates. Write it down. After listening to Lu Wushuang's description, Shweb Baochai suddenly asked, What poison were you poisoned with? With her experience in the Imperial City Department, she knew that if a person lied, many details would definitely be wrong. I was poisoned by the 99 pill, and my cousin was poisoned by the fire pill, Lu Wushuang answered without hesitation. This seems to be a poison from the Island of Heroes. A secret agent at the side whispered to Shweb Baochai. Although the Island of Heroes was mysterious, the Imperial City Department was a secret agent of a country. They more or less knew some information about the Island of Heroes. Shweb Baochai raised her eyebrows. At this time, she already believed 80% of the story. After all, Lu Wushuang was a daughter of a rich family. If she didn't experience it herself, how could she know anything about the Island of Heroes? But as far as I know, the 99 pill and the fire pill are extremely poisonous. How did you survive? Shweb Baochai continued to ask. I told you that our friends saved us. That's why we returned to the city the next day, Lu Wushuang answered. What is the name of your friend? How did he cure these two strange poisons? Shweb Baochai thought that if she was poisoned by one of the two poisons, she probably wouldn't be able to force the poison out. Lu Wushuang snorted. My cousin's master is the famous Eastern heretic Huang Yaoshi. He is an expert in alchemy. Naturally, her friend is also an expert in this field. What's so strange about curing poisons? Shweb Baochai had also investigated Cheng Ying's background and knew that she was Huang Yaoshi's last disciple. She agreed with Lu Wushuang's words, but she didn't plan to let her go so easily. You still haven't told us who your two friends are. We will find them to verify if you're telling the truth. Lu Wushuang was shocked and hurriedly said, They have something important to do. I promised not to reveal their information. Xue Baochai wanted to ask more questions, but suddenly a secret agent rushed in and reported, a masked man appeared in the Shun Garden. He seems to be looking for something. After the incident at the Shun Garden, the Imperial City Department secretly set up sentries near the Shun Garden. Originally, they were just going through the motions. They didn't expect the murderer to come back, but now there was an unexpected surprise. Xue Baochai instantly stood up. Did you alert him? The secret agent replied, No. According to Darren's instructions, everything is being observed in secret. Good, everyone follow me. Xue Baochai waved her hand and led the secret agents of the Imperial City Department in the direction of the Shun Garden, leaving Lu Wushuang alone. What are the characteristics of the masked man? As they rushed to the Shun Garden, Xue Baochai asked the subordinate from before, wearing a mask, tall and slender, about 30 or 40 years old. Following the secret agent's description, Xue Baochai was even more shocked because it was exactly the same as what Lu Wushuang had described. Everyone, follow him. This time, we can't let him escape. Xue Baochai's eyes flashed with excitement. After investigating the Shun family case, the murderer's foxtail had finally been revealed. Fortunately, the secret base of the Imperial City Department was not too far from the Shun Garden. Very quickly, a group of people arrived at the Shun Garden. The masked man clearly realized that something was wrong and quickly ran outside, coincidentally bumping into Xue Baochai's group. Capture him. Xue Baochai's heart was excited, but her commands were very orderly. The secret agents of the Imperial City Department blocked off all the escape routes of the enemy. The crossbows of the Song Dynasty were unparalleled in the world, and the crossbows used by the Imperial City Department were 1 in 10,000. With a group of people pointing their crossbows at the enemy would not be able to escape even if he had wings. Hurry up and surrender, and I'll spare your life. As long as Xue Baochai lowered her hand that was halfway raised, the crossbows would fire 10,000 arrows. No matter how high the enemy's martial arts were, they would not be able to dodge at such a close distance. The masked man gave a cold snort. His figure flashed, and he disappeared from the center. In the next moment, everyone found that he had jumped out of the encirclement of the crossbowmen. How was this possible? Not only Xue Baochai, but all the secret agents of the Imperial City Department had the same thought. Could it be that their eyes were playing tricks on them? The masked man did not stop at all. He quickly attacked the crossbowmen from behind to prevent them from forming another encirclement. At such a close distance, the crossbows in their hands became a burden. Screams rang out incessantly, and a large number of the secret agents of the Imperial City Department were instantly killed. Xue Baochai was both shocked and angry. With a shout, she pulled out her dagger and stabbed at the man, giving her subordinates a chance to breathe and begin to regroup. The two sides exchanged more than 10 moves in an instant. The more Xue Baochai fought, the more shocked she became. If it were not for the many experts of the Imperial City Department helping her, she would have already been defeated. The martial arts of the man in front of her were extremely strange. It did not seem to be the martial arts of the Central Plains. It really is someone from the Isle of Heroes. Xue Baochai recalled a scroll about the Isle of Heroes that she had occasionally seen in the past and recognized the martial arts of the other party. But in this moment of distraction, the other party instantly closed in on her. Xue Baochai was shocked and hurriedly retreated, but it was too late. The other party instantly circled behind her and grabbed her neck. "Little beauty, tell them all to stop," the masked man said in a low, muffled voice. Unexpectedly, Xue Baochai's eyes flashed with a trace of determination. She reversed the dagger in her hand and stabbed it at her lower abdomen, trying to die with the other party. Looking at this posture, it was similar to the Wu Dang sects living with the heavens and earth. Damn it! The masked man obviously did not expect her to do this. He hurriedly stretched out his hand and caught the dagger when it was only a centimeter away from Shue Baochai's lower abdomen. This masked man was naturally Song Qing-shu. In order to clear the suspicion of Lu Wushuang, he simply disguised himself as the murderer that night and appeared in the Shen Garden. As expected, there were also secret agents of the Imperial City Department here. Shue Baochai and the others were also lured here according to the plan. But he did not expect Shue Baochai to be so decisive. She almost died in his arms, which was a great sin. Chapter 1463. Song Qing-shu's heart skipped a beat. It would not have been difficult for him to dodge the sword, but he suddenly realized that if he had dodged and left Shue Baochai where she was, she might have been pierced through by the sword. He had only come here to clear the suspicion of Lu Wushuang and Cheng Ying, and had no intention of killing them. When he fought with the secret agent of the Imperial Division, he had only made him lose the ability to fight, not kill. He had shown mercy to a man he did not know, let alone a beauty like Shue Baochai, who was famous in his previous life. With a twist of his wrist, the tip of the sword in Shue Baochai's hand was twisted off. Without hesitation, Song Qing-shu used the tip of the sword to meet the sword coming from behind him. In an instant, the two of them exchanged more than 10 blows. Despite the danger, Song Qing-shu was still able to neutralize the opponent's attacks. The person who had come was clearly shocked. He did not expect that his opponent would be able to exchange so many blows with him using only a small part of the sword. By this time, Song Qing-shu had clearly seen the person who had come. It was Shue Baochai's cousin, Shue Yiren. Recognizing him, Song Qing-shu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He no longer had to deliberately protect Shue Baochai. He reached out and pushed her waist, pushing her towards Shue Yiren like a sandbag. Then, he took advantage of the moment when Shue Yiren went to pick up his sister to use his qin gong to escape. Quick, chase after him. Shue Baochai could only watch helplessly as the clue in her hand escaped. No need. That person's lightness skill is very good. We won't be able to catch up, Shue Yiren said coldly. Brother. Shue Baochai's face was full of self-blame. It's all my fault. If I hadn't been caught by him, he wouldn't have taken the opportunity to escape. This person's kung fu is very high. There's no shame in being caught by him, Shue Yiren said with a frown. A person with such kung fu is definitely not nameless in Jianghu. He should be from the Isle of Heroes, Shue Baochai said hurriedly. She recounted the information she had received and the kung fu that the person had just used. Isle of Heroes? Shui sank into deep thought. Although the Isle of Heroes is said to be miraculous by the people of Jianghu, there are probably only 3 or 4 people who have reached such a high level of martial arts. Second Island Master Long Mu's age doesn't match. Could it be Zhao De and Qian Er? The Isle of Heroes rarely gets involved in the Central Plains. Usually, it's Zhang San and Li Si who show up. Zhao De and Qian Er only exist according to rumors. No one has actually seen them. Even our Imperial City Department doesn't have any information on them, Shue Baochai said with a frown. That was only because we didn't have the authority to investigate it in the past. Now that it involves the Crown Princess and the extermination of the Imperial Court's officials, we can use more authority from the Imperial City Department. How can a mere Isle of Heroes fight against the power of the Imperial Court? Shue sheathed his sword with a cold expression. The brother and sister discussed the case as they walked back. When they returned to the stronghold, they discovered that the Lu family had come with a Mountainine city guard. They were clearly here to protect Lu Wushuang. By now, Shue Baochai knew that the murderer was someone else. Adding on the pressure from the Mountainine officials, she had no choice but to release Lu Wushuang. The Lu family brought Lu Wushuang back to the mansion. Everyone in the mansion came to greet her. Lu Wushuang finally managed to send them away. She returned to her room and nervously searched around. Brother Song, Brother Song? Lu Wushuang called out in a small voice as she searched. But after calling for a long time, there was no response. Lu Wushuang couldn't help but sit in front of the window in disappointment. Ah, a sad soul, farewell. At this time, a masked person suddenly crawled to the window. Lu Wushuang was about to scream in fright when she heard a familiar voice. Wushuang, why are you sad? Brother Song? Lu Wushuang looked at the other in disbelief. Song Qingshu took off his mask and smiled warmly. Lu Wushuang excitedly jumped into his arms. After a while, she suddenly realized something and raised her head to look at her. Why are you dressed like this? Song Qingshu smiled bitterly and said, It's all because of you. Then he roughly explained what had just happened. As a precaution, after he escaped from the Shui siblings, he did not immediately return. Instead, he purposely ran out of the city. On the way, he purposely alerted the guards. After he shook off the pursuers outside the city, he silently rushed back. This was to give the Imperial City Department a false impression that he had already left the city and completely cut off all relations with Lu Wushuang. It was because he had gone in a big circle that he rushed back now. Otherwise, with his lightness kung fu, he would have returned long ago. No wonder the Imperial City Guard released me so easily. After understanding everything, Lu Wushuang was both impressed and moved. I knew Brother Song would have a way. Song Qingshu was about to say something when his expression suddenly changed. Someone is coming. Then he flashed behind a screen. Very quickly, there was a knock on the door. Seventh Miss. Hearing it was a servant girl's voice, Lu Wushuang said unhappily, What is it? It wasn't easy for Song Qingshu to come. It was rare for the two of them to be disturbed. She naturally wasn't in a good mood. We've brought hot water and new clothes for you to bathe in, the servant girl outside answered. Lu Wushuang's face was gloomy. No need, leave. The servant girl outside said awkwardly, This is Old Foreign's idea. Old Foreign said that you went to a place like the Imperial City Guard and your body was contaminated with something inauspicious. You have to use hot water made with grapefruit leaves to wash away the bad luck. Then, you have to change your clothes and burn them. Lu Wushuang opened her mouth and finally answered helplessly, Come in. In the Lu family, Old Foreign's words were final. Adding on that she had always been good to her, she couldn't refuse. With her permission, a group of maids and old women filed in. Each of them was either carrying hot water, clothes, or grapefruit leaves and flower petals in their hands. Soon, a steaming hot bathtub was set up in the room. Miss, please change your clothes. After everything was set up, the servant girl came in front of Lu Wushuang. Lu Wushuang's face turned red. There was a man in the room. Even though the two of them had already had physical contact, to be honest, there was still some distance between them. She felt a little uncomfortable. Just as she was in a dilemma, she suddenly heard Song Qingshu's voice in her ear. Let them leave. Lu Wushuang originally had this intention, so she said to the group of servant girls, Too many things have happened today. I won't be alone for a while. Leave your things here and leave. The group of people looked at each other and finally agreed. After all, Lu Wushuang was the most favored miss in the mansion. In addition, she had been wrong today, so no one would be so inconsiderate as to offend her. Yes, the servant girls all bowed. But I hope Miss can change your clothes first. We will burn them according to Old Foreign's instructions. Lu Wushuang was helpless. Since she was already Brother Song's woman, she hesitated for a moment and finally took off her clothes with the help of a group of servants. However, she still had the shyness of a young girl. As soon as she took off her clothes, she dived into the bathtub, hoping to use the water and flower petals to cover her naked body. Soon, the group of servant girls left. Lu Wushuang bit her lips and grabbed the edge of the bathtub to look at the screen. Brother Song, are you still here? Song Qingshu flashed out from behind the screen and said with a smile, With you here, how can I bear to leave? Lu Wushuang's face turned red and her body shrank back into the water. Brother Song, wait a moment. I will be done in a moment. Song Qingshu walked directly to the bathtub. No rush. It is more interesting to take your time. Lu Wushuang was startled and looked at him in a daze. Song Qingshu leaned on the edge of the bathtub and said with a smile, You don't mind if I bathe with you, right? Lu Wushuang cried out in surprise. Her face instantly turned red. How can I do that? Why not? Song Qingshu smiled. He quickly took off his clothes and jumped into the water. As Lu Wushuang cried out in surprise, he pulled her into his arms. If you continue to scream like this, you might call back the servant girls. Song Qingshu hugged her from behind and whispered in her ear. His words were more effective than anything else. Lu Wushuang was so scared that she immediately shut her mouth. Song Qingshu revealed a smile of success. Wushuang, since I am here, let me help you wash away the bad luck. Lu Wushuang's face became hot, and she muttered in a small voice, I feel like you are up to no good. Song Qingshu smiled and didn't argue with her about the verbal advantage. Seeing that she didn't object, he directly took action. He cupped the water and gently poured it over her body. His hand slowly slid over her skin. Both of them trembled at the same time. A young girl's skin is really soft and smooth. Song Qingshu secretly praised. For a moment, he could not tell if he liked this kind of young girl or those gentle and charming older sisters. They both have their own good points. It is really hard to choose. Song Qingshu thought for a while and decided not to worry about it. This was a dangerous and chaotic world. If he was not careful, he would become a corpse on the side of the road. But at the same time, it was a world full of opportunities. There were some things that he did not even dare to think about in his previous world. In the end, Lu Wushuang's skin was stained with a layer of pink, and her breathing became rapid. Not to mention her, even the experienced Song Qingshu's mouth was dry, and his body was extremely hot. Previously on Peach Blossom Island, he had some skin contact with Huang Rong. But because of his moral obsession, he had to be a gentleman. There was already an evil fire in his body, especially after eating a lot of oysters the night before. When he was slightly stimulated by Lu Wushuang's body, his whole body was already unbearably hot. Feeling the change in his body, Lu Wushuang was no longer a young girl who did not know the world. How could she not know what was going to happen? She bit her lips and leaned forward. She picked up a silk handkerchief and handed it to Song Qingshu. What are you doing? Song Qingshu was startled and did not understand for a moment. Lu Wushuang lowered her head and said in a voice as soft as a mosquito, Use this to stuff my mouth in case I can't control myself and make a sound. She didn't even finish her sentence before she was overwhelmed with embarrassment. What happened with Song Qingshu in the stream left a deep impression on Lu Wushuang. She wanted to scream, but was afraid of being discovered by the two people on the shore. She could only bitterly endure it. That kind of torture left a lingering fear in her heart, and she did not want to endure it a second time. Chapter 1464. Hearing his words, Lu Wushuang's body trembled. Her heart was filled with fear and anticipation. Song Qingshu hugged Lu Wushuang from behind and pressed her against the wall of the bathtub. He gently breathed into her ear. Have you thought about me during this period of time? Yes. Feeling the man's hot breath behind her, Lu Wushuang's voice trembled. She did not know what was going on with her. She felt that she had carelessly given her body to this man. Actually, I am very curious. Why did you do that last time? Do you really love me? Song Qingshu's fingers caressed her tender skin as he slowly asked. Lu Wushuang opened her mouth, but could not say the word love. Her eyes flashed with confusion. Do I really love this man? When she thought of this question, Yanggua's face suddenly appeared in her mind. She could not help but become absent-minded. Sha Dan, do you like Brother Yang more? Song Qingshu raised his eyebrows and revealed a playful expression. No, it's not that, it's just that. Lu Wushuang hurriedly explained. In this world, women were in an extremely weak position. Under the oppression of all kinds of etiquette, many things have been engraved into their bones. Now that she was already Song Qingshu's woman, she was thinking of other men. In this world, she was an existence that was spurned. Unfortunately, when she opened her mouth, she did not know how to explain. Tears gradually welled up in her eyes. If not for the fact that there was no possibility between her and Yanggua, she would not have done that in the stream outside the city. Seeing Yanggua is enough to ruin your whole life. You truly live up to your reputation. Seeing Lu Wushuang's nervous expression, Song Qingshu smiled. Wushuang, you don't need to be nervous. I have seen many women who adore him. You're not the first, nor will you be the last. He wondered how Lu Wushuang would react if she knew that her fiancé had been taken to bed by him. Thinking of Pu Cha Chiu Chao, Song Qingshu felt somewhat apologetic. After all, it was not his wish. If there was someone to blame, it was Taj Tish's fault. Although it was unintentional, it was a fact that he had hurt her. He did not know if the soul transfer technique had completely made her forget that matter. After returning to the Jin Kingdom, he had to make up for it. While he was lost in thought, Lu Wushuang faintly said, "Song, brother Song, ever since you cooled me with that thing, your figure would appear in my mind every day. I would even dream of you at night. As for what happened in the stream, I don't know what happened either." Song Qingshu suddenly understood. This world was so conservative. When he had helped Lu Wushuang lower her body temperature, their skin contact was so intense. Normal girls would not have treated it as nothing had happened. And from then on, he had appeared in their hearts. I wonder if Huang Rong has the same effect. Thinking about how he touched Huang Rong's skin more than Lu Wushuang's, Song Qingshu could not help but feel excited. But thinking about it again, Huang Rong was not an inexperienced girl. Her mentality was definitely stronger than Lu Wushuang's. Moreover, she was so intelligent. It would be easy for her to sever her emotions. Sighing inwardly, Song Qingshu stroked Lu Wushuang's soft hair. "To tell you the truth, I was also shocked by you in the stream." Lu Wushuang's face turned red. She looked back at him with some bitterness. "Brother Song, you are not a good person. I was impulsive at that time. In the end, you did not even refuse. You did not even give me a chance to regret." Song Qingshu laughed. "In that situation, a beautiful girl threw herself at me. If I refused, I would not be a man." Lu Wushuang's small mouth curled up. She said with some dissatisfaction, "Then if it was any other girl, you would not have refused?" Song Qingshu's expression changed, and he replied in all seriousness, "Of course not." But in the next moment he laughed. "At the very least, it has to be at the same level as your cousin. You actually have ideas about my cousin." Lu Wushuang was so angry that she was going crazy. She opened her small mouth and bit him a few times. After the two of them played around for a while, Lu Wushuang suddenly sighed. "Brother Song, I feel that you're only interested in my body. You do not really like me." Song Qingshu reached out and lifted her chin. "Aren't you the same?" Lu Wushuang subconsciously wanted to refute him. She opened her mouth but did not know what to say. Now that she thought about it, when they first got together in the stream, it was probably because of her body's instinctive attraction. But what about the yearning that followed? Thinking of this, she could not help but feel wronged. Her eyes gradually filled with tears and involuntarily fell. "Silly girl, don't you think that I am now the Prince of Qi? Those princes and nobles in Lin, and have sent me countless beautiful women. But have I looked at them? If I didn't like them, why would I do such a thing to you?" Song Qingshu comforted her while wiping the tears on her cheeks. "Really?" Lu Wushuang blinked her eyes and asked with some joy. "Of course," Song Qingshu said with a smile. "But what you said is also reasonable. Although we have a good impression of each other, it has not risen to the level of deep love. But I have a fast way to promote the love between us." "What way?" Lu Wushuang asked. "Do you know what is love?" Song Qingshu's smile became a little playful. "You are so annoying." Although Lu Wushuang was a little girl, she was influenced by the big family and would always know some things. There's a saying that says love isn't something you can say, it's something you can do. Song Qingshu gently lifted her butt and pressed it tightly. "Let's create love together." Lu Wushuang shivered, and her skin was dyed with a layer of red. She reached out to put the silk handkerchief in her mouth. Who knew that Song Qingshu snatched it away? "Don't use this. I like to see you grit your teeth and bear it." Compared to the mature and charming style of the young woman, the young girl grit her teeth and bare it was equally attractive. If someone heard it, it would be terrible. The voice coming from Lu Wushuang's throat was mixed with a hint of sweetness. "Don't worry, if someone approaches, I will warn in advance." Song Qingshu paused and kissed her earlobe. "Of course, don't make too much noise. Otherwise, if the entire Lu mansion heard it, I can't do anything." "Bad guy." Lu Wushuang snorted and closed her eyes in embarrassment. After an unknown amount of time, Song Qingshu carried Lu Wushuang out of the bathtub. He picked up the clothes on the side and tied her wrist to the bed. Then he covered her eyes with a silk handkerchief. "Brother Song, what are you doing?" Her movements were restricted, and she couldn't see anything. Lu Wushuang couldn't help but panic. Song Qingshu moved closer to her ear and whispered. Lu Wushuang's heart trembled, and she murmured, "Brother Song, you are so bad." The next day, when it was almost noon, Lu Wushuang slowly woke up. Because she was frightened last night, she deliberately ordered the servants not to disturb her and let her sleep a little longer. So, no one came in until now. Otherwise, if they saw her like this, the entire Lu mansion would be in chaos. She pulled off the silk handkerchief covering her eyes and found that the man beside her was gone. She couldn't help but sigh. She vaguely remembered Song Qingshu saying goodbye to her at dawn. Unfortunately, her body was too tired at that time, and she could only respond before falling asleep again. "Really? Why did you leave in such a hurry?" Lu Wushuang pouted and snorted with dissatisfaction. But when she saw the messy bed sheets and the silk handkerchief tied to her wrists, her face couldn't help but blush. Last night, her hands were tied and her eyes were covered with the silk handkerchief. Her body was many times more sensitive than usual. Every movement of the other party could cause her soul to tremble. Touching her burning face, Lu Wushuang couldn't help but feel a little dazed. Feeling the strong love in her heart, her eyes revealed a trace of surprise. Brother Song really didn't lie to me. Song Qingshu was in a hurry to return to the north. Plus, last night, he found out that Lu Wushuang was going to meet up with Chang'ing. So, he said goodbye to her early in the morning. The evil fire that was ignited by Huang Rong was completely released. Today, he immediately felt refreshed, especially since Lu Wushuang was a young girl. Her pure yin qi was extremely dense, causing his internal energy to be much purer. It seems that the famous female protagonists in the Golden Book have gathered the essence of heaven and earth. Each one of them is of such high quality. Song Qingshu secretly sighed in admiration. He was afraid that the seniors of the Tantric Buddhism who practiced the joyous dhyana did not have such good luck as he did. That was why they often went berserk. Thinking of Lu Wushuang's gentle and moving appearance last night, Song Qingshu couldn't help but feel a sense of pity. He thought that he had to find an opportunity to give her a status. He couldn't follow Duanzheng Chun's example and abandon her. Song Qingshu went all the way to the north. Because he heard about Murong Jingwei, he didn't directly return to the Jin Kingdom. Instead, he went to Yangzhou to find Zhao Min. After a few days, he finally arrived at Yangzhou. Seeing that Yangzhou had returned to its former prosperity, he couldn't help but secretly praise Zhou Zhiruo's ability. Although she didn't have much experience, she was still able to manage this place in an orderly manner. He just didn't know how much of it was thanks to Zhao Min. I wonder how the two of them have been getting along. Arriving at the Yangzhou City Guard office, Song Qingshu found out that Zhou Zhiruo and Zhao Min were there. He stopped the soldiers from going in to inform them and walked straight in, wanting to give them a surprise. Before he reached the office, he faintly heard quarreling voices coming from the study room. "Hey, your imagination is really poor. It's just like your breasts." Song Qingshu was startled. He could tell that it was Zhao Min's voice. He couldn't help but not know whether to laugh or cry. Although Zhou Zhiruo's breasts weren't big, they were at least B to C. It had nothing to do with flat breasts. Chapter 1465. Outside the door, Song Qingshu's expression became even weirder. Zhao Min was born into a Mongolian noble family and grew up in the grasslands. She ate beef and drank horse milk from a young age, so the nutrition she absorbed was naturally incomparable to that of a Han woman. In addition, she grew up on horseback and often exercised, so her body was very fit and beautiful, especially with a pair of large breasts. Although she'd been tightly wrapped in clothes, the full shape still reminded people of the few times they had accidentally touched her breasts. Although he did not deliberately measure them, they were definitely above D's. Aya, a person who is as poor as her breasts. You're really incurably eccentric." Zhao Min's voice sounded again, and Song Qingshu was speechless. This mockery was really full marks. As expected, the sound of fighting soon came from inside the room, but it ended quickly. Then, Jojo's voice carried a hint of delight. No matter which one it is, it's really big and useless. Song Qing-shu wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Although Zhao Min was resourceful, her martial strength was far inferior to Zhou Zhiruo's. After thinking about it, he felt that it was better for him not to go in for the time being. "Let go of me," Zhao Min said rather angrily. "I'm not letting go. Bite me if you dare." Zhou Zhiruo's laughter was full of pride. "What are you so proud of, you washboard?" Zhao Min scolded angrily. As expected, Zhou Zhiruo flew into a rage. "Fat pig, what did you say?" "I said you're ugly." Zhao Min did not seem to care about angering the other party at all. "An Annie who specializes in producing milk." Zhou Zhiruo's snow-white face flashed with a hint of anger. Zhao Min immediately retorted, "The body of a child. Don't you feel guilty with Song Qing-shu on top of you?" Outside the door, Song Qing-shu suddenly felt like he had been shot in the knee. What did this have to do with him? He was sitting at home, and the pot fell from the sky. "You dead pig who was soaked in water." Zhou was almost driven crazy by Zhao Min. "You skeleton who was eaten by wolves." Zhao Min naturally did not want to be outdone. Hashtag, %%, hashtag, and asterisk, asterisk. The two of them started cursing at each other. Song Qing-shu found it both funny and admirable. He really didn't know how these two had so many strange words in their minds. In the end, Zhou Zhiruo was no match for Zhao Min. She angrily grabbed her neck. "Believe it or not, I'll kill you." "I don't believe it." Who knew that Zhao Min didn't take it seriously at all? She looked at her with disdain. "For a scheming woman like you who wants to be the empress, at this time, you definitely wouldn't do anything to make the surname Song hate you. Especially when the surname Song is fickle and has so many talented and beautiful women by his side. All of them are strong opponents for you." "I'm scheming?" Zhou Zhao sneered. "A mistress like you who hangs around other people's husbands all day isn't much better." Zhao Min seemed to have been poked in the foot. "You bitch." "What does bitch mean?" Zhou Zhao was startled. "I think it's a word from Song Qing-shu's hometown. It has the same meaning as a whore." Zhao Min thought of the word Song Qing-shu taught her and said proudly. Zhou Zhiruo's face darkened. "Mistress, mistress, mistress." The two women quickly fell into a quarrel again, leaving Song Qing-shu in a mess outside the door. He could not help but think of the Winter Horse Gang and Shelley Gang in the White Album 2 online forum in his previous life. Winter Horse Mistress. Shelley bitch. What's with this strong sense of deja vu? Song Qing-shu felt that he could not watch the show anymore. Otherwise, who knew what the two women would do? Cough, cough. Zhou Zhao and Zhao Min were in the middle of arguing when they suddenly heard a strange cough coming from the door. The two women turned around. At that moment, the expressions on their faces were very complicated. There was both joy and awkwardness. As if they had made an agreement, the two women let go of each other and began to tidy up their clothes that were messed up from the fight. "You're back." Zhou Zhiruo was his wife after all. At this moment, she was in a position to greet him. However, thinking that he must have seen her performance just now, she could not help but feel embarrassed. "Why didn't you tell me in advance?" Did I tell you in advance so that you could be prepared and act like a weak little white flower?" Zhao Min took the opportunity to hit her when she was down. She ran to Song Qing-shu and began to complain. "You saw her for yourself. She's like a tigress. I've been living like hell these days. If you didn't come back, I'm afraid you'd have to collect my corpse in the future." Zhou Zhao was so angry that her teeth itched. However, now that Song Qing-shu was here, it was not convenient for her to use the force that she was best at. She could only stare at him. Obviously, Zhao Min understood all this. She hid beside Song Qing-shu and looked at her proudly. She couldn't help making a face, which almost made Zhou Zhiruo explode with anger. Song Qing-shu was speechless and said awkwardly, "You're exaggerating. Zhiruo has a sharp tongue, but a soft heart. I don't see any scars on your body." After all, Zhou Zhiruo was his wife. No matter what, it was not convenient for him to side with an outsider. Zhao Min exploded in an instant. "What sharp tongue? but soft heart. It's obvious that she has a soft mouth, but a sharp heart. The reason why I don't have any scars is because of my intelligence and intelligence. I can barely keep myself safe. Ahem. If Joao has done anything wrong to you during this period, I will apologize to you on her behalf. Song Qing-shu had no choice but to say. This time, Zhou Zhuo couldn't take it anymore. Why should I apologize to her? I didn't do anything wrong. Similarly, Zhao Min didn't accept it. She should apologize to me. What's the point of your apology? Hearing what she said, Zhou Zhuo's eyes lit up. She ran directly to Song Qing-shu and hugged his arm. He's my husband. Isn't it reasonable for a husband to apologize to his wife? If you are dissatisfied, you can ask your man to stand up for you. Zhao Min was instantly speechless. This was her biggest weakness now. Okay. I came back this time for something important. Song Qing-shu knew that if he got involved in the battle between the two women, he would probably die without a corpse left. Thus, he very wisely diverted their attention. Hearing that they were talking about serious matters, the two women's expressions became serious. First, tell me about the situation in Yangzhou. Song Qing-shu said to Zhou Zhuo. Zhou Zhuo nodded and slowly replied. During this time, we thoroughly cleaned up the Jiangnan Green Camp. First, we solved the problem of unpaid salaries. Song Qing-shu was startled. How did you solve it? It should be known that unpaid salaries were the most common problem in ancient society. For example, in an integrated army of 10,000 people, it was actually very good to have 70% of the people. Most of the time, there were only 3,000 to 5,000 people. Of course, the imperial court naturally distributed the rations according to the quota of 10,000 people. The extra was naturally divided among the generals and their confidants. In ancient times, there were very few famous generals who could not receive unpaid salaries. Only a few people like General Yu could receive a full quota. Even a famous general like Han Shizhong was a big one who received unpaid salaries. However, Han Shizhong was fine. Although it was very bad for him to receive unpaid salaries, he had the ability to maintain the combat strength of the troops. He was much better than the other generals who only received unpaid salaries but did not get paid. On the day of payday, we have the soldiers line up one by one and hand them to them and register, Zhou Zhuo replied. Song Qing-shu's eyes lit up. Good idea, but this is too hard on you. It's not hard at all. Zhou Zhuo pursed her lips and smiled. When she saw the pouting look on Zhao Min's face, she hesitated for a moment before saying, Miss Zhao came up with this idea. Oh, Song Qing-shu turned to look at her, as expected of the princess who is as quick-witted as a fox. Zhao Min raised her head arrogantly and said to Zhou, it's only because I'm here that you don't dare to take my credit. I'm not that despicable, Zhou Zhuo replied coldly. Is that so? Zhao Min deliberately dragged out her tone, and the suspicion in her eyes made Zhou Zhuo almost go crazy again. All right. Seeing that the two were about to start a fight again, Song Qing-shu hurriedly interrupted. By the way, Zhuo, how many soldiers were there in Yangzhou in the end? Zhou Zhuo replied. Previously, Li Kashio claimed that there were 100,000 soldiers in the Green Camp under her command. But after counting, it was far from that number. The phenomenon of them eating without pay was extremely serious. In addition, many of them escaped from the previous battle, and the old, the weak, the sick, and the disabled were excluded. After calculating it, there were only about 38,000 soldiers. Including the troops of the Golden Snake Battalion you left last time, and the new soldiers I recruited, there are only 50,000 soldiers now. That's not a small number. No matter how elite an army is, it doesn't matter how many there are. Unlike Zhou Zhuo, who was depressed, Song Qing-shu was more satisfied with this result. Moreover, he knew very well that victory or defeat had nothing to do with the number of soldiers. For example, the Song dynasty had millions of imperial soldiers, but wasn't it still famous for being weak? They were beaten by tens of thousands of elite Jurchen soldiers until they cried for their parents. Moreover, if there were too many soldiers, the soldiers' pay was also a big problem. Because of the war with Manchuria, The Ming dynasty spent more and more soldiers' pay, but they could only increase taxes on the poor peasants, which further ignited the domestic peasant uprising. In the end, the Ming dynasty died because of internal and external troubles. Zhao Min obviously agreed with his point of view. Yes, the quality of the soldiers is more important than the quantity. In the previous expeditions to the west, our Mongolia swept the plains of Eastern Europe with a few 10,000 soldiers. In the war with the Jin Kingdom at Wild Fox Ridge a few years ago, the enemy had 300,000 soldiers. So what? In the end, they were completely defeated and wanted to surrender the world's most powerful country. Speaking of the glory of the Mongolian Empire, Zhao Min had a very proud look on her face. Yes, yes, yes. You Mongolians are powerful. Mountain city of Chongqing and Xiangyang city can't do without your heroism, Zhou Zhihua said in a strange tone. The Mongolian Empire had dominated the world for all these years, but they only lost Prince Monk in Jiaoyu City. They also suffered heavy losses in Xiangyang City for many years. Obviously, Zhou Zhihua said this to deliberately mock Zhao Min. Sure enough, Zhao Min was provoked and angrily said, "Surname Zhou, are you deliberately making things difficult for me?" Zhou Zhihua spread out her hands and said innocently, "I'm just speaking the truth. Is the truth making life difficult for you? Why are you so narrow-minded?" Seeing Zhao Min's pretty face flushed red with anger, as if she was about to explode at any time, Song Qingshu felt that he was really in the middle of a battlefield. All right, each of you talk less. 50,000 soldiers are enough, but we have to completely disrupt their organization and at the same time insert our own people in the middle and lower ranks. Some people don't even think of this. Zhao Min looked provocatively at Zhou Zhihua, finally regaining some ground. But with me here, of course these things will be solved. Chapter 1466. Zhou Zhihua remained unmoved as she faintly said, "Without me, you wouldn't be able to display your skills, no matter how capable you are." Her words made Zhao Min's fist hit empty air, and she felt stifled in her heart. Song Qingshu felt his scalp go numb as he thought that asking the two of them at the same time was his biggest mistake. He should have talked to each of them in private. Seeing that she had gained the upper hand, Zhou Zhihua looked at Zhao Min with pride before reporting to Song Qingshu as if she was asking for credit. "I've already looked through the resumes of the officials in Jianghuai, and there are many who are corrupt. But considering that Yangzhou has just been annexed, we have to focus on stability. Our focus is still on controlling the army, so we've only made some minor adjustments to those officials. Aside from a few especially disgraceful officials that I killed to warn the others, we haven't touched the rest. We'll slowly settle the score with them after everything is stabilized." Well done. Stability is indeed the most important thing right now. Song Qingshu couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. After saying that, he looked at Zhao Min in surprise. "You came up with this too? The princess is truly an all-rounder." Zhou Zhihua's face darkened, while Zhao Min couldn't help chuckling. "I'm asking for credit from you, but I never thought that you'd directly give the credit to this princess. He looks like I'm smarter and more reliable than some people in your heart." Feeling the killing intent behind him, Song Qingshu felt a chill down his spine and instantly changed his words. "But Zhihua, you're even more amazing to be able to command such a powerful person to work for you." Hearing his words, Zhou Zhihua's face looked better, but Zhao Min's face darkened. "What about taxes?" Song Qingshu secretly wiped his cold sweat and quickly changed the topic. "Taxes are more troublesome." Zhou Zhihua frowned. Although Jianghuai is rich, most of the land is concentrated in the hands of the gentry. Unfortunately, the previous tax policy gave preferential treatment to those with scholarly honors. The gentry could reduce a lot of taxes, and many poor farmers would attach their land to the gentry to avoid taxes. Over time, it's easy to be annexed by the gentry. The tax collected is much less than the actual amount of land. Land annexation? That's a necessary stage in a feudal society. It's normal. Song Qingshu began to ponder. Although he understood the inevitability of this, he still had to think of a way to solve this problem. He did not want to go to war without pay and follow in the footsteps of Chongzhen. Actually, it's easy to solve this problem, Zhao Min suddenly said. How to solve it? Zhou Zhuo had been having a headache over this problem recently. So, she asked subconsciously. Raising her chin, Zhao Min's eyes flashed with a trace of pride. Beg me. Zhou Zhuo's breath stopped, and she directly turned her head away, choosing to ignore it. Song Qingshu smiled bitterly. Princess, don't keep us in suspense. Tell us. Seeing that you have a good attitude, I'll teach you a few things. Seeing that Zhou Zhuo was saying that she was ignoring it, but was actually listening attentively, Zhao Min's smile was very bright. Our Mongolian Empire has a vast territory, and taxation is also a big problem. In the beginning, we improved on the taxation method of Yuan people, but the effect wasn't very good. Later on, the Han people came up with an idea and invented a new method of taxation, which is to raise the tax rate to a very high level. Tiske, what good idea did I have at that time? Zhou Zhiruo sneered. If we raise the tax rate, won't the lower class people revolt? Why are you so impatient? I haven't finished yet. Zhao Min rolled her eyes at her and continued. This tax rate is very high, and it's true that ordinary people can't afford it. However, the imperial court will set up an organization that can issue loans to the people to pay the tax. At the same time, they will extend the repayment period appropriately. Of course, the longer the repayment period, the higher the interest. Won't this make life difficult for the people? Won't they still revolt? Zhou Zhiruo frowned. Of course not. Zhao Min suddenly laughed coldly. The lower class people are animals that are content. As long as there is a choice, they won't revolt. The imperial court is lending them money to give them a choice. Isn't this multi-layered exploitation? Zhou Zhuo was very unhappy. You Mongolians are really vampires. So what? Zhao Min did not care at all. The weak are prey to the strong. This method may seem inhumane, but the tax we collect is 10 times more than what you Han people do. The Mongolian treasury is full, and we can organize a stronger army to conquer more countries. Rude barbarians, Zhou Zhiruo snorted. She had to admit that there was a reason why the Mongolians were so powerful. Song Qingshu had a strange expression when he heard this. The imperial court borrowing money from the people to pay taxes. Why did it sound like a mortgage in the future? The princess's plan is very reasonable. Song Qingshu praised Zhao Min and suddenly changed the topic. But this method is too advanced. If we're not careful, we can easily kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. It might not be a problem in the short term, but after a decade or so, all kinds of problems will occur. When that time comes, the people won't be able to survive, and the country will be in danger of collapsing. There were many economists, mathematicians, and political geniuses in the future who were calculating the model of the real estate market. Even so, there were occasional economic crises all over the world. In today's world, Song Qingshu did not believe that there were so many scientists who could solve this extremely complicated financial system. At most, the people in the past had just started to get involved in this field. They were still trying to figure out all the experience, and there would definitely be many big problems in the future. Historically, Mongolia had adopted the tax policy of the Hui people. In the beginning, they did enjoy some benefits, but later on, there was a serious upheaval, and they had to give up on this method. Although Zhao Min was smart, she was still limited by the times. She felt that this tax method was very effective. She told Song Qingshu everything, but he did not appreciate it. She could not help but feel angry. You think this won't work, and that won't work. Looks like you have an idea. I have a few ideas. Let me think about it first. Song Qingshu's mind was racing, and he did not notice the change in Zhao Min's emotions. Seeing that he was taking advantage of the situation, Zhao Min snorted and turned her head. She decided not to give this B***starred any ideas in the future. Zhou Zhuo, on the other hand, was in high spirits. It was obvious that she was happy to see this situation. Song Qingshu did not notice the undercurrent between the two women. He began to carefully think about the tax problem. The first idea that came to his mind was to beat up the local tyrants and divide the land. The path that Taizu had taken back then proved to be practical and effective. It brought out the enthusiasm of the vast number of farmers, and it would explode with terrifying power. However, he quickly dispelled this idea. It was not the right time yet. The reason why Taizu was successful back then was because of internal and external troubles. China was facing an unprecedented change in 1,000 years, and it had reached a point where there could be no construction without destruction. In this world, the scholar official class controlled a large amount of wealth. At the same time, almost all the talented people came from the gentry class. If they were completely offended, they could just escape to other countries. In addition, the gentry class also controlled the public opinion. At that time, he would really become a butcher. It must be known that Li Ziqing's mistake was not far away. Chongzhen did not make a move on the gentry in the capital, even when he was out of ammunition and food. In the end, Li Ziqing plundered tens of millions of silver from the gentry families when he entered the city of Beijing. Although he felt good for a while, he was regarded as an irreconcilable enemy by the scholar officials of the world. On the contrary, the Manchurian Qing treated these gentry very well. Therefore, they all became the leaders of the Manchurian Qing. Because the gentry's clans were very powerful in their local areas, with them as the vanguard, the Manchurian Qing was able to sweep the world with tens of thousands of Eight Banners army. Song Qing-shu still needed the gentry class to help govern the place. He needed the support of the gentry class to conquer the world. After all, the peasants in this world did not have any culture at all. It was possible to count on them to become roving bandits and loot, but it was really impossible to count on them to do great things. He did not want to become Li Ziqing, so he could only give up the tempting idea of the future. Do you have any ideas or not? If not, use mine. Zhao Min waited at the side. Seeing that he did not speak, she suddenly became a little impatient. Of course I do. Song Qing-shu had already sorted out his thoughts and directly replied, "We can use the method of never increasing taxes and spreading the people's land to work together." What do you mean? The two girls looked confused. Song Qing-shu explained, "I used to be just a common person. Now that I have the ability, I naturally have to consider the lives of the common people. Never increasing taxes is mainly to reduce the burden of the common people. Of course, it is also to win the hearts of the people. In the future, when the common people of other countries hear that we are going, they will greet the imperial army with food." Zhou Zhuo had also lived at the bottom of society in the past, so she strongly agreed with his idea. That's right. Now that the world is in chaos, the common people are faced with all kinds of exorbitant taxes and levies, and they often have to raise taxes. They have long been suffering unspeakably. Qing-shu, it is really admirable that you can think of them. I also like it very much. Zhao Min could not help but say sourly, "Anyone can have a reputation, but if you want face, you can't have substance. If you don't increase taxes, when the time comes, there will be no money and army pay, and you can only be trampled on in the disputes between the various countries. Maybe there will be another Song Xianggong in history. So this can only be solved by spreading the people to work on the land." Song Qing-shu explained unhurriedly. In the past, the tax was collected by the head tax. The number of people paid the tax according to the number of people. However, often the poor people have a few people in a family, and the gentry have a dozen people in a family. The wealth of the two sides is countless levels apart, so it is unreasonable to calculate the tax according to the number of people. If the tax is paid according to the number of acres of land owned, then not only can it reduce the burden of the poor people, but it can also greatly enrich the national treasury, and the tax collected will be far more than before. It was the Qing dynasty that never increased taxes and allowed people to enter the fields. Although the Qing dynasty's weakness towards the Han Chinese and later the Western powers became an indelible black mark, from the perspective of a feudal dynasty, some of its systems were much better than many of the previous dynasties. Chapter 1467. Zhou Zhuo was still thinking, But Zhao Min's eyes lit up. Yes, it's a good idea, but there are two problems. First, such a tax policy will greatly harm the interests of the gentry. How will it be implemented? Song Qing-shu said coldly. What's the use of the 50,000 elite soldiers we raise? What's more, now that we have the prestige of a great victory, those gentry will not dare to resist. Zhao Min nodded and also thought that his idea was feasible. Then there's the second problem. If you do this, you will definitely offend the majority of the gentry. What if they run to other countries? You should know that there are many countries now, and they don't necessarily have to stay under your rule. Song Qing-shu smiled and said, Don't worry, the gentry class also has its natural weakness. Their power and roots are here. If they move to another country, they will definitely lose a lot of wealth, and the connections they have accumulated before will disappear. These losses may not be less than the taxes they have to pay according to the requirements. What's more, if they move to other countries, it will definitely harm the interests of the big families in those countries. The other party will definitely make things difficult for them. Therefore, unless we want to kill them all, they will never move. It should be known that when the Western Jin dynasty was in chaos and Yongjia moved south, except for those families who were particularly close to Sima Yu and Sima Rui, the remaining real top families, such as the Qinghe Chui clan and the Fanyang Lu clan, did not move south at all. And those families that moved south also had a fierce power struggle with the local gentry in Jiangnan. With history as a mirror, Song Qing-shu was so sure. Even if we take 10,000 steps back, the ancestral graves of those great clans are still here. Zhou Zhirua suddenly added in a chilling tone. Zhao Min looked at Song Qing-shu and then looked at Zhou Zhirua. She couldn't help but sigh. Sometimes I have to sigh that you two are really a match made in heaven. One eats people without spitting out the bones, and the other is cruel and merciless. Zhou Zhirua raised her eyebrows. For the first time, she didn't get angry. Instead, she pursed her lips and smiled. Thank you for the compliment. Song Qing-shu held her hand and said softly, Zhirua, I just mentioned the general policy. As for how to implement it, I'll have to trouble you. Even though they had been married for so long, Zhou Zhirua still blushed when he held her hand. However, she suddenly reacted and looked at Zhao Min provocatively. Then, she replied in an extremely gentle voice, Qing-shu, don't worry. I will definitely complete the task you have entrusted to me. After all, we are husband and wife. Hey, I really can't stand you guys. You guys are so mushy. Can't you see that there's someone else beside you? Zhao Min shuddered and rubbed her arms exaggeratedly. You guys go ahead. I'm going out first. He didn't wait for their response and walked out without looking back. She walked aimlessly to the back garden. Her relaxed expression suddenly collapsed. She sat on the swing and kicked the stones on the ground in annoyance. It's really annoying. Why do I have to steal a man from that surnamed Zhou every time? As soon as she said this, she was stunned. She looked around guiltily. Seeing that no one heard her, she let out a long sigh of relief. However, thinking of her own worries, she couldn't help but sit on the swing in a daze. Meanwhile, Song Qing-shu and Zhou Zhirua were affectionate for a long time. They told each other what happened during the time they were apart. They didn't separate until a subordinate came to report government affairs. I have to deal with business. You must be tired from the journey. Go to the room and rest. Zhou Zhirua gently tidied up his clothes. Then take your time. Seeing her serious expression, Song Qing-shu couldn't help but laugh. He kissed her cheek and walked out of the study. Perhaps it was because Zhou Zhirua lost her father at a young age and grew up in a place like Maunamei. She had to compete with many of her martial sisters for Abbess Miju's favor. As a result, she always had a sense of insecurity in her heart. At the same time, she developed a strong personality that was soft on the outside but strong on the inside. Perhaps it was because she thought of Agio and the other competitors. She also wanted to make some achievements to prove herself, so she forgot to eat and sleep and threw herself into the government affairs in Yangzhou. Although she didn't have any experience, she was smart. In addition, she had Zhao Min and a series of subordinates to assist her. Now, she was gradually able to handle things with ease. But husband, you're still busy with business when you're back. Can't you get intimate with me first before going to do it? Song Qing-shu couldn't help but feel a bit resentful. At this time, he couldn't help but sigh at some of the plots in the original work. In a sense, Zhou Jiruo and Yu Lingshan were the same type of people. They were both very serious and focused on business. However, whether it was Zhang Wuji or Ling Huchong, they both had romantic personalities. Naturally, they preferred women like Zhao Min and Rin Yingying, who were tired of business and were more interested in romance. However, Song Qing-shu didn't look down on Zhou Jiruo in the slightest. With her personality, what he needed the most right now was this kind of serious wife to help him deal with all kinds of government affairs. Along the way, Song Qing-shu's mind was in a whirl, and before he knew it, he had arrived at the back garden. Suddenly, under the afterglow of the setting sun, he saw an incomparably beautiful girl hugging her knees as she sat on a swing not far away. Her body was half leaning against the ropes on both sides, and the ropes outlined her graceful figure. However, at this moment, the young girl was staring at the distant north in a daze. Her beautiful face was filled with melancholy. Homesick, Song Qing-shu walked to Zhao Min's side and asked softly. Zhao Min seemed to be startled awake. She turned back to look at him and snorted coldly. "Aren't you at Zhou Zhiruo's place accompanying her? I'm worried that you're taking things too hard, so I came to see you." Song Qing-shu couldn't help but despise himself for being a glib talker. It was obvious that Zhou Zhiruo had to deal with business, and he had no choice but to leave. Yet, he made it sound so nice. "TSK, who wants to see you?" Zhao Min snorted, but her expression softened a lot. "Are you homesick?" Song Qing-shu grabbed the swing and repeated the question. Zhao Min's eyes turned red, but she quickly concealed it. "So what if I miss home? So what if I don't miss home? You won't let me go anyway. So why would I look for trouble? Don't make it sound so pessimistic. You make it sound like I'm treating you like a prisoner and bullying you." Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly. Zhao Min rolled her eyes at him. "Isn't that the case?" Song Qing-shu held his breath and was somewhat speechless. After all, to a certain extent, Zhao Min was now imprisoned by him. "Actually, I came back this time to bring you back to the north." Song Qing-shu coughed twice and hurriedly diverted her attention. Zhao Min's eyes lit up, but she quickly curled her lips and said, "You still have a tigress at home. It would be strange if you would let me go with you." Song Qing-shu was speechless. It seemed that Zhao Min and Zhou Zhiruo were born to be incompatible. After fighting each other for so many years, they didn't miss any opportunity to hurt each other. I'm taking you away for serious business," Song Qing-shu hurriedly explained. "I found news about Murong Jingwei." "What?" Zhao Min suddenly sat up straight. "Where is that bastard?" Over the past year, she had been tortured by the 3-corpse brain god pill. Although it hadn't acted up, she shuddered at the thought of such a thing lurking in her head. Especially girls, they had a natural fear of insects, so every day was a bit of a torture. Song Qing-shu shook his head and said, "I can't tell you now. I don't want you to go to him impulsively and alert him." "Didn't you want to go with me? How could you alert the enemy? Tell me, tell me." In the end, Zhao Min even pulled his arm and began to act like a spoiled child. It could be seen how deep her resentment towards Murong Jingwei was. "The main thing is that I have to go back to the Jin Kingdom. I can't go with you until I finish my business there." Song Qing-shu suddenly closed his mouth and almost said the word Liao. "Back to the Jin Kingdom?" Zhao Min frowned and asked, "Is it because of the Song dynasty's northern expedition?" "How do you know?" Song Qing-shu was surprised. After all, the Song dynasty was preparing for the northern expedition in secret. He only got the news because he was in a high position. The Song dynasty's army has been moving frequently recently. They are gathering at the south bank of the Yangtze River. Even a pig can see that they are going to attack the north. Zhao Min said disdainfully. Song Qing-shu couldn't help thinking that most people in the world had become pigs. "Do you think everyone is as smart as you?" Obviously, the Song dynasty is serious this time. "What are you going to do when you go back to the Jin Kingdom?" Zhao Min had already known that he pretended to be Tang Kuobian in the Jin Kingdom. Now that the whole world knew that the power of the Jin Kingdom was in the hands of Tang Kuobian, She naturally knew what Song Qingshu was going to do when he went back. Of course, Song Qingshu didn't tell her that the Jin Kingdom's emperor had been replaced. After all, the new emperor was from the Mongolian camp. He was worried that she would leak the secret. Different situations call for different actions. The Song dynasty is very good at defending cities, but they're not good at attacking in the field. Song Qingshu was full of confidence a moment ago, but the next moment he looked at Zhao Min with a smile and said, "Of course, I still need your help. Help me plan." Zhao Min curled her lips and said, "Why should I help you?" Song Qingshu tidied up his clothes and pretended to leave. He said, "It's okay if you don't want to help me. Then you stay here and continue to accompany Zhuo. I will come and pick you up after I finish the business in the Jin Kingdom." Zhao Min's expression changed. She hurriedly stopped him and said, all right. I will help you. You win." Song Qingshu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "Is Zhuo so scary?" Zhao Min snorted and said, "If it were in the past, I wouldn't be afraid of her. But now that I am a prisoner, I don't have enough power to use. No matter how smart I am, I can't overcome the absolute gap in strength. I'm exhausted these days. Can't you get along with each other?" Song Qingshu said helplessly. Zhao Min looked at him strangely and smiled playfully. She said, "You really have some dirty thoughts." Song Qingshu's face reddened, and he awkwardly changed the topic. The two chatted for a while in the back garden. Time passed unknowingly. Suddenly, there was a light cough behind them. The two turned around and found Zhuo looking at them with an unfriendly expression. "Time to eat." Zhuo snorted and turned to leave. Chapter 1468. Song Qingshu held his breath and subconsciously looked back at Zhao Min, only to find that she was winking at him. That moment of flirtatiousness really made him feel like he had been electrocuted. Zhao Min giggled and said, "Your one is jealous." But no matter how you looked at it, her voice was gloating. What a vixen! Song Qingshu cursed in his heart. He had decided that no wonder Zhao Min was so popular in the original work. Her charm was really not fake. Soon, the three of them gathered at the dining table. Song Qingshu sat at the head of the table, while Zhuo and Zhao Min sat on his left and right. From the point of view of an onlooker, the two stunning beauties on his left and right side were really enjoying the bliss of having two wives. But only Song Qingshu understood how torturous it was to sit between them. Feeling as if there were sparks in the air, Song Qingshu coughed and deliberately shouted in an exaggerated manner, "Wow, this chicken leg is shiny and fragrant. It must be delicious. I'm just hungry." As he spoke, he picked up a piece of chicken leg in the air. But before he could put it back into his bowl, the two women handed their bowls to him at the same time as if they had agreed on it. Song Qingshu's body stiffened. He really wanted to give himself a big slap. If you want to eat it, you should eat it quietly. Why do you have to be so high profile? Now it's over. I asked my husband to put food in my bowl. What are you doing? Zhuo squinted at Zhao Min and then asked Song Qingshu coquettishly, "Qingshu, it's natural for a husband to put food in his wife's bowl, isn't it?" Yes. Song Qingshu was speechless. The chicken leg in his hand gradually moved towards Zhuo's bowl. "Wait." Zhao Min moved the bowl in her hand forward. "I've helped you so much in Yangzhou during this time. Even if I don't get credit, I've worked hard. What's more, Qingshu will need my help when he goes to the Jin Kingdom. What's wrong with asking him to give me a drumstick?" After saying that, he looked at Song Qingshu with a smile and said, "Qingshu, don't you think so?" Yes. A chill ran down Song Qingshu's spine. He looked at her white teeth, which were clearly delicate, but at this moment, they seemed to be emitting a cold light. Qingshu, why are you calling me so intimately?" Zhuo's face darkened as she said angrily. Zhao Min didn't care at all. "Isn't his name Qingshu? How about I call him Big Brother Song, Big Brother Song?" "You." Zhuo almost choked to death by her words. All right. Song Qingshu secretly wiped his cold sweat. He directly stuffed the chicken leg into Zhuo's bowl. Then he quickly picked up a piece of lamb chop from the table and gave it to Zhao Min. "Your Highness, you grew up on the grassland. I think you're more used to eating lamb." Unexpectedly, the smile on Zhao Min's face disappeared instantly. She put the bowl and chopsticks on the table and said, "I don't want to eat lamb today." Zhou Zhuo was very unhappy when she saw her husband picking food for her. However, when she saw Zhao Min's current appearance, her anger turned into joy. "Qingshu, you're so nice." As she said that, she used her shoulder to nudge Song Qingshu next to her. "Oomph." Zhao Min suddenly stood up and turned to walk outside. "Your Highness, where are you going?" Song Qingshu hurriedly asked. "I can't eat, so I'm going out to relax." Zhao Min answered without looking back. Song Qingshu smiled bitterly, but the smile on Zhou Zhuo's face became even brighter. However, Zhao Min suddenly stopped when she reached the door. As if she had thought of something, she turned around and sat back down. "Why did you come back?" The smile on Zhou Zhuo's face instantly froze. Zhao Min picked up her bowl and chopsticks again to eat. As she ate, she answered in a muffled voice, "Because I've thought it through. There's no need to use other people's mistakes to punish myself. When the time comes, I'll be the one starving." Zhou Zhuo's breath stopped. However, when she saw that the other party was focused on eating and clearly didn't intend to pay attention to her, her interest waned. She snorted and also began to eat. In this strange atmosphere, the three of them finished their meal. In order to avoid a repeat of the charaba, Song Qingshu hid in the study room to look through the various documents in the Jianghuai region. Zhao Min had clearly lost the mood to bicker with Zhou Zhuo. After chatting for a while, she returned to her room. Zhou Zhuo changed into a set of casual clothes and sat by the side, occasionally answering some of Song Qingshu's questions about official matters. It was a different kind of fun. After understanding the affairs in the Jianghuai region, it was already late at night. Song Qingshu got up and stretched his waist. "Zhuo, it's getting late. Let's go back and rest." "Oh," Zhou Zhuo, who was previously quite capable and experienced, suddenly blushed. Song Qingshu walked over and hugged her waist with a smile. "We're already an old married couple. Why are you still shy?" "Who's an old married couple with you?" Zhou Zhuo rolled her eyes. "I'm still very young." Yes. You're young, but I'm already old. I'm just an old cow eating young grass." Song Qingshu laughed. "You're so annoying." Zhou Zhuo's heart was stirred by his words. Song Qingshu took the opportunity to carry her. "Where's your room? Show me the way." After leaving Yangzhou, Zhou Zhuo and the rest cleaned up a new place and moved out from the previous temporary residence. So he didn't know where his wife's room was. "I'll put me down," Zhou Zhuo exclaimed. She was embarrassed and anxious. "What if someone sees us?" "If someone sees us, then so be it. Everyone knows that you're my wife. It's not like we're an adulterous couple. What are you afraid of?" Song Qingshu didn't stop. He carried her and walked out. You really can't spit out ivory from a dog's mouth. Zhou Zhuo was so angry that she kept punching his chest. "If you're afraid of being seen, show me the way quickly. We'll go into the house soon. Otherwise, it'll be easy for everyone to know if we're fooling around outside," Song Qingshu said with a smile. Zhou Zhuo blushed. Sure enough, she quieted down instantly. She pointed in a direction and said, "That way." "All right." Song Qingshu strode forward as if he was in a hurry. "Be careful. Don't let anyone see us. Otherwise, how will I be able to raise my head in front of them in the future?" Zhou Zhuo nervously grabbed onto her husband's clothes and said in a panic, "Don't worry." As Song Qingshu was speaking, a few servant girls suddenly appeared in the corridor. Zhou Zhuo was so scared that she almost cried out. Fortunately, Song Qingshu reacted quickly. His figure flashed, and he hid behind the fake mountain at the side. "I think I saw something just now." Because Song Qingshu was too fast, the servant girl only felt her eyes blur. She didn't have time to see what it was. "Are your eyes playing tricks on you?" The other servant girl didn't look in front of her just now. Now that she saw nothing, she couldn't help but ask suspiciously. "Maybe." The servant girl from before wasn't sure either. Soon, the few of them left. In the dark, Zhou Zhuo finally let out a sigh of relief. She couldn't help but slap Song Qingshu's chest angrily. "Put me down. Didn't you not see us?" Seeing her face blushing, Song Qingshu found it particularly interesting. How could he bear to pour down? If I'm seen, Zhou Zhuo opened her mouth and deliberately put on a fierce expression. I'll bite you to death. Bite? Song Qingshu's expression was strange. You're welcome to bite me. Zhou Zhuo had been with him for so long. How could she not know his dirty thoughts? She was stunned for a moment before she reacted. You really are a bastard. Thank you for the compliment. Song Qingshu carried her and strolled in the courtyard. Then, they dodged two groups of servants. Zhou Zhuo was scared witless. That's right. Why didn't I see Li Yuanji this time? Song Qingshu suddenly opened his mouth and asked. Previously, he was dizzy from Zhao Min and Zhou Zhuo's quarrel, and now he was looking forward to this matter. It must be known that previously, he had sent Li Yuanji back to Yangzhou to look for her father. Can we go back to the room and ask? Zhou nervously looked around, afraid that her embarrassed appearance would be seen by others. No, I want to know now. Song Qingshu couldn't help but worry for Li Yuanji. Although Li Yuanji was also a weird little demoness and might not be at a disadvantage against others, whether it was Zhou Zhuo or Zhao Min, they were both demonesses who would eat people without spitting out their bones. Li Yuanji really didn't have the slightest chance against the two of them. Zhou Zhuo was very smart and good at reading people's expressions. As soon as she saw his expression, she guessed what he was thinking. Don't worry, she said snappily. I didn't hurt your delicate and lovely Yuanji Mimi. She is now in Shandong. Shandong? Song Qingshu was stunned. Zhou Zhuo explained. Her father, Li Kaxiu, has been in Jianghuai for many years. His power here is deeply rooted. I'm worried that leaving him here will cause some people with bad intentions to have thoughts that they shouldn't have. So I might as well transfer him to Shandong and put him under house arrest. This way, those schemers in Yangzhou won't be able to use his name and prestige to do anything. Yeah, well done. I didn't think it through before. Song Qingshu recalled that in the future, there would often be a rotation of generals to prevent the army from becoming a private army. Li Kaxiu had been the boss of Jianghuai for so many years, so leaving him here would indeed be a hidden danger. Don't be in a daze. Hurry up and carry me into the room. Zhou Zhuo instantly panicked when she vaguely heard someone's voice not far away. All right, Song Qingshu hugged her, and they quickly entered her room. Closing the door, Song Qingshu swept the things on the table to the side and placed Zhou Zhuo on it. Zhou Zhuo's heart jumped. She had more or less guessed what he wanted to do. Her charming face seemed to be smeared with rouge, but she was also faintly looking forward to it in her heart. Song Qingshu undid her belt with familiarity and reached his hand between her thighs. Suddenly, a trace of ridicule appeared on his face. Zhuo, you just said that you don't want on the way here, but in the end, you're so aroused. Zhou Zhuo was so embarrassed that she turned her face away. She simply wanted to find a hole to hide in. She was indeed very afraid on the way here, but she didn't know if it was because of the uneasy feeling of danger that her body was several times more sensitive than usual. Even though it wasn't a long journey, she was already surging with passion. Song Qingshu liked to see her shy look. Entering her body while she was bashful was a very pleasurable experience. Zhou Zhuo's body trembled, and she instantly wrapped around the man on top of her like an octopus. I want a child. Zhou Zhuo's face was flushed as she shyly said in Song Qingshu's ear. Okay. Song Qingshu actually had the same intention. After all, with the expansion of the territory and the increasing number of subordinates, having children would also make everyone feel at ease. As the main wife, Zhou Zhuo naturally had to be the first to conceive. It was a simple word, but it was more effective than any words of love and aphrodisiac. Zhou Zhuo's body became softer and softer, and she embraced the man on top of her more gently. Chapter 1469. It turned out that in order to prevent Zhao Min from escaping, Zhou Zhuo had arranged for her room to be next to hers. In this way, the two of them could work together during the day and monitor her at night. She would be able to notice any unusual movements in time. Because of the fear on the way here, Zhou Zhuo had forgotten about this. As a result, Zhao Min next door suffered. She was lying on the bed, feeling upset. Suddenly, shameful sounds came from next door. She was startled for a moment before she understood what was going on. Her face turned red. She curled up in the quilt and even picked up a pillow to cover her head. However, the sound waves coming from next door were extremely penetrating. It made her feel upset and angry at the same time. I'll endure, endure. Zhao Min didn't understand why she was so upset. Unfortunately, the two people next door seemed to be going against her, and their voices became louder and louder. What a horny hussy! Zhao Min secretly spat. She thought that Zhou Zhuo usually had to pretend to be an ice beauty, but now she was so unrestrained. She was really shameless. Originally, she planned to endure it, but after a long time, the sound waves next door didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. She finally got angry. Like a cow, she was already upset, and after being incited like this, she finally erupted like a volcano. She ran to the next door and banged on the door loudly. You guys can do it, but why do you have to make such a big noise? How can the people next door still sleep? It's Zhao Min. Suddenly startled, Zhou Zhiruo in the room couldn't stop trembling. She was a little panicked. Song Qing-shu, on the other hand, had a subtle expression on his face. Zhou Zhuo was startled, and her whole body was trembling. Waves of energy surged through her body. That feeling was indescribable. I'm talking to you. Seeing that he was ignoring her, Zhou Zhuo was a little anxious. Zhao Min is Zhao Min. It doesn't matter. We are a real husband and wife. Are you afraid that she will catch us in the act? It seemed that it was not the first time for Song Qing-shu to encounter this kind of thing, so his reaction was much calmer. Get up. Zhou Zhuo tried to push the man away, but her hands were pressed against the table instead. Why are you getting up? She can listen if she wants to. Song Qing-shu moved closer to her ear and gently exhaled a breath of hot air. Zhou Zhuo, on the other hand, was ashamed and resentful. At this time, Zhao Min's voice sounded again from outside the door. Surnamed Zhou, don't you have any shame? You're shouting louder than those girls. As the saying goes, when things reach an extreme, they will go in the opposite direction. Zhou Zhuo was originally in the wrong and extremely embarrassed. However, after being repeatedly humiliated by her sworn enemy, she exploded. From Miss Zhao's tone, it seems that you have been here before. Zhao Min, who was outside the door, was stunned and immediately became furious. The other party was insinuating that she had been a prostitute in a brothel. She could not bear it, so she raised her leg and kicked the door. Surnamed Zhou, her voice stopped abruptly. Because she was impulsive, she did not consider the consequences. However, at this moment, when she kicked the door, she saw that Song Qing-shu was pressing Zhou Zhuo on the table and doing that shameful thing. Ah! With a scream, Zhao Min instantly turned around, and her face instantly turned red, shameless and immoral. Both of you are not good people. This time, Song Qing-shu immediately became angry. Princess, it is ethical for us to be intimate with a husband and wife. It can't be more normal. On the contrary, it doesn't seem too appropriate for you to barge in. Who? Who asked you to make such a loud noise? Zhao Min said in a panic. At this moment, her mind was filled with the scene of Song Qing-shu pressing Zhou Zhiruo's body, and her whole body became unnatural. Seeing Zhao Min barging in, Zhou Zhiruo's mind went blank, as she almost fainted. It was not until she heard the conversation between the two that she gradually came back to her senses. She hurriedly tried to push Song Qing-shu away, but unfortunately, her hands were tightly pressed by him, and she could not move at all. What made her even more crazy was that at this moment, the other party was actually moving slowly. Seeing Zhou Zhiruo's expression that was about to go crazy, Song Qing-shu used secret voice sending to say, "Don't worry, she can't see it. Moreover, you are also guilty, so she will be even more excited." After thinking carefully, Zhou Zhiruo also felt that it was somewhat reasonable. Anyway, things had already come to this point. If she put on a shameful expression, she really would not be able to raise her head in front of Zhao Min in the future. Humph! Rushing in so quickly. Are you in love? Want to sleep with our Song Qing-shu? If you want, just say it. I can lend him to you for a night. Although Joval was extremely embarrassed at this time, she deliberately said in a deliberately mocking tone, "Really?" Hearing this, Song Qing-shu was overjoyed, but the response to him was the other party's fierce glare. No matter how bold Zhao Min was, after all, she was also a young girl who was not married. How could she compare to Zhou Zhihua, who was already a wife, who was already very open? She was incomparably flustered by a few words from her. Shameless. After scolding, Zhao Min did not dare to stay for a moment and ran out in a panic. On the way, she even staggered a few times. Feeling that her legs were soft, she became even more embarrassed and ran out regardless of everything. Are you satisfied now? When Zhao Min's figure disappeared outside the door, Zhou Zhihua glared at the man on top of her. Satisfied with what? Song Qing-shu pretended not to understand. Just now when I came in, not only did you not let go of me, but you also pressed me even tighter. If this is not your bad taste, then what is it? Zhou Zhihua rolled her eyes at him, but her expression was extremely coquettish. Don't you like it? Song Qing-shu smiled wickedly. The body's reaction can't be faked. Embarrassed, Zhou Zhihua directly raised her head and fiercely bit his shoulder. After the clouds dispersed and the rain stopped, the two of them lay on the bed. Song Qing-shu told her that he was going to the Jin Kingdom. Suddenly, Zhou Zhihua frowned and said, "Is Zhao Min also going with you?" Because she was now weak, her tone was extremely lazy, so the words that should have been full of murderous intent did not sound cold at all. Instead, they sounded a little more charming. Holding her waist, Song Qing-shu gently stroked her skin with his hand. Well, the main thing is to find the whereabouts of Murong Jingwei. Because of my mistake, she was poisoned by the 3-corpse brain pill. If I don't detoxify her, I won't feel at ease. In addition, there are many military and national affairs to deal with in the Jin Kingdom this time, so I need her to help me plan. Actually, you don't have to explain so much. Zhou Zhihua sat up straight and held Song Qing-shu's cheek, showing her perfect figure in front of him without reservation. My man is a great hero who distinguishes between kindness and hatred. Why would I stop you from saving her? Looking at her beautiful black hair scattered messily on her snow-white chest, the sharp contrast between the two colors made Song Qing-shu's index finger twitch. If not for the fact that he still had business to discuss, he would probably not be able to restrain himself. Seeing how you two quarreled so much during the day, I thought you didn't want to save her, Song Qing-shu said with a smile. Although we quarreled, I should save her, but Zhou Zhihua changed the topic. But after getting the antidote from Murong Jingwei, don't rush to give it to her. Why? Song Qing-shu asked curiously. Zhou Zhihua explained. Zhao Min knows so many of our secrets. Now that she has a favor to ask of you, she will naturally not betray you. But if the poison in her body is cured, she may not be so obedient. She's also a Mongolian princess. If she leaks our information to the Mongolians, we will suffer heavy losses. Okay, let me think about it, Song Qing-shu answered vaguely. In fact, he did not want to believe that Zhao Min would betray him. But reason told him that he could not pin everything on some illusory trust. Zhou Zhihua also understood his thoughts, so she did not continue to persuade him. She directly nestled in his arms and enjoyed the aftertaste of bliss. When you plan to leave? Zhou Zhihua asked. Tomorrow. Song Qing-shu answered. So soon? Zhou Zhihua's voice was full of hidden bitterness. They had just reunited, but they had to separate again. Anyone would have some complaints. I have no choice. The Song dynasty's northern expedition is imminent, and I was delayed because of some matters. Song Qing-shu looked apologetic. After all, he had spent too much time on Huangrong, and now he only spent one day with his wife. It was somewhat unreasonable. Okay then, let's focus on the important matters. Zhou Zhihua sighed faintly. Suddenly, she thought of something. Oh yes, if you take Zhao Min to the Jin Kingdom, won't your power in the Jin Kingdom be exposed? Currently, she only knows that I am Tang Quobian. As for Emperor Wanyan Shui, I will try to hide it from her. This was a serious matter, and Song Qing-shu did not dare to completely trust Zhao Min. After all, if she knew that Wan Yin-shui was also one of his men in disguise, with her intelligence, she could easily guess that there was something wrong with Kangxi in Yinjing. If this information was leaked back to Mongolia, it would be unimaginable. I heard that Tang Quobian's wife is unparalleled, the most beautiful woman in the Jin Kingdom. Doesn't that mean you have all the women in the world? Zhou Zhuo suddenly said faintly. Song Qing-shu's scalp went numb. It was not easy to enjoy the happiness of having multiple wives. There was bound to be a lot of jealousy. Gobai loves her husband deeply. I promised Tang Quobian that I would take good care of her on his behalf. Don't talk about other things. Zhou Zhiruo's mouth twitched with a hint of mockery. Don't tell me that you didn't take care of her in bed. Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly and did not know how to reply. Unexpectedly, Zhou Zhiruo changed the topic. Qing-shu, I am not blaming you. On the contrary, I think you have done a good job. Song Qing-shu looked suspicious. He felt that she was being sarcastic. Zhou Zhiruo smiled. You're thinking too much. The Jin Kingdom is very important. If you can't make her your woman, I can't rest assured that you will leave the situation there to her. In fact, it is not enough to just get her into bed. Only by having a child with her can the two of you be completely bound together. What you said makes sense. I am actually speechless. Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly. Although these words were probably Zhou Zhiruo's true thoughts, she was only analyzing it from the perspective of the big picture. If she were to analyze it from the perspective of a woman, she would probably not feel good at the moment. As expected, Zhou Zhiruo felt a little sour in her heart. She could not help but mumble in a low voice. You said that I should get pregnant earlier. Now that we are separated more often than not, when will I be able to get pregnant? In that case, let's hurry up. Song Qing-shu smiled and flipped over to mount her again. What are you doing? Zhou Zhiruo could not help but exclaim. Her pretty face blushed again. Making a baby. His words made Zhou Zhiruo's tensed body instantly soften. Song Qing-shu kissed his wife gently and pressed on her again. Chapter 1470. Princess, what's wrong with you? Song Qing-shu asked in surprise. You already know the answer. Zhao Min fiercely glared at him and walked away without looking back. Song Qing-shu was stunned for a moment and then realized what she meant. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. She really touched my sore spot. If I asked her like that, I would be asking for a beating. Hey, wait a minute. Thinking that he still had something to tell her, Song Qing-shu hurriedly chased after her and put his hand on her shoulder. What's wrong? Zhao Min looked back at the hand on her shoulder and asked in an unfriendly tone. Song Qing-shu withdrew his hand and smiled embarrassedly. Are you done packing? Packing for what? Zhao Min looked confused. Didn't I say I would take you to see Murong Jingwei and go back to the Jin Kingdom on the way? Her reaction made Song Qing-shu speechless. Oh, I forgot. Zhao Min finally reacted, but she quickly showed a look of shame and anger. She glared at him and said, It's all your fault. As she spoke, she walked back to her room. Song Qing-shu followed behind and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's none of my business. How is it none of your business? Zhao Min looked at him angrily while packing. Last night, you two were shameless and made such a big noise. I couldn't sleep well last night. I can't help it. I was born with a special talent, Song Qing-shu said proudly. Zhao Min blushed and spat softly. Shameless. She was a girl after all, so she felt a little uncomfortable talking about these things with a man. Song Qing-shu suddenly thought of something and had a strange expression on his face. Since you felt that you were disturbed, why didn't you sleep in another place yesterday? Why did you stay here and suffer? Did you want to eavesdrop out of curiosity? Nonsense. It's all because of your Zhou Zhiruo that I have to live next to her so that she can watch over me. I'm like a prisoner in this mansion. I can't even get out of this courtyard. Where can I go? Zhao Min said angrily. However, she felt a little guilty because the other party's words had more or less hit the nail on the head. Although she was embarrassed and angry yesterday, she did have a lot of curiosity. She secretly pricked up her ears to listen but it didn't take long before she couldn't take it anymore. Okay, let's go. Because of her guilty conscience, Zhao Min randomly packed a few clothes and stood up. You only brought these clothes? Looking at the small bag, Song Qing-shu asked in surprise. Anyway, with a sucker like you accompanying me, why would I bring so many things? Zhao Min rolled her eyes. When the time comes, I'll let you buy whatever I need. Song Qing-shu felt a toothache. No one's money grows on trees. Don't pretend to be poor in front of me. Zhao Min casually threw the bag to him, indicating for him to help carry it. You have thousands of li of fertile land in Shandong, and you were conferred the title of Prince of Qi by the Song dynasty. You also secretly control the Jin kingdom. If you don't have money, then there aren't many people in the world who have money. Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly and directly chased after her. Because the territory is big, there are also many places that need money. Just look at the amount of money that the army consumes every day. I still want to find a chance to dig up some treasures. Roaming King's treasure, Mount Looting's treasure, Emperor Liang's treasure. I have to find a chance to dig them all out. Hearing the word treasure, Zhao Min's eyes also lit up. Count me in when the time comes. No problem. The two chatted for a while, and the atmosphere became more and more relaxed. Seeing that he directly brought her out of the city guard mansion, Zhao Min was stunned. You're leaving just like that? Aren't you going to tell Zhuo? The two of you have feelings for each other. Song Qing-shu smiled. Don't worry, I already told her last night. She's sore all over and can't get up, so she won't be sending us off. Originally, Zhou also wanted to accompany him to the Jin kingdom, but it was a pity that there would be no one to oversee the Jianghuai territory. Adding on to the fact that they were about to change the tax policy, it was a difficult task that she couldn't attend to. Although she was unhappy in her heart, she could only watch as Zhao Min and her husband went together. Hearing his words, Zhao Min's face changed and she coldly snorted. Pervert! You keep calling me a pervert, but when have I ever perverted you? Song Qing-shu was also very depressed. Being called a pervert so early in the morning, he felt that it wasn't a good start. You didn't? You, Zhao Min subconsciously said, but she swallowed her words halfway and said, Forget it, let's not talk about this. I'm hungry. Let's find a place to eat. Song Qing-shu had fought fiercely all night and only ended at dawn. Now he also felt a little hungry. Hearing this, he found a seat at a small stall and asked for some steamed buns, porridge, soy milk, and the like. The two of them began to gulp down the food. The buns of this era are really thin and thick, without any fakes. Thinking about those unscrupulous merchants in his previous life, Song Qing-shu couldn't help sighing. At least the food in this world was original, without any messy additives. How are we going? Are we going to the Jin kingdom on foot? Halfway through their meal, Zhao Min suddenly realized a serious problem. Don't worry, I've arranged for horses at the city gate. We could just go and get it when the time comes. Song Qing-shu replied. Can we change to a horse carriage? Zhao Min suddenly asked. A horse carriage is too slow. Song Qing-shu frowned and said, You grew up in the Mongolian grasslands, yet you don't like to ride a horse. Instead, you want to take a horse carriage? It's all because you were too noisy last night. I didn't sleep well last night, so I want to sleep in the horse carriage for a while. Zhao Min got angry at the mention of this. Song Qing-shu wisely raised his hands in surrender and said, Okay, let's change to a horse carriage. After fighting for the entire night, he was actually a little tired, so it was good to rest in the horse carriage first. After the two of them finished their breakfast, they quickly arrived at the west gate of Yangzhou. They had the soldiers find a horse carriage, and of course, a few more horses. After all, they were in a hurry to go to the Jin kingdom. It was fine to rest in the horse carriage first, but they couldn't ride the horse carriage the entire way. That would be too slow. In order to curry favor with Song Qing-shu, the commander at the city gate specially arranged for a few soldiers to escort them. Song Qing-shu originally wanted to refuse, but when he thought that he also needed to sleep later, it would be good to have someone to drive the carriage, so he agreed. Just like that, the two of them sat in the horse carriage and slowly drove out of Yangzhou City. After getting on the horse carriage, Zhao Min yawned and couldn't help but stretch, I'm so tired. I'm going to sleep first. Her action of stretching made her unusually full chest even more perfect, and Song Qingshu's eyes were glued to it. Noticing his gaze, Zhao Min looked down, and her cheeks quickly turned red. She angrily said, "Where are you looking? You'll be looked at if you're beautiful. You should be happy." Song Qingshu smiled embarrassedly. Zhao Min was speechless at his shamelessness, and with a face full of suspicion, she said, "You won't take advantage of me while I'm asleep to do strange things to me, will you? Am I so unbearable in your heart?" Song Qingshu was speechless. "Don't worry, I tossed around all night yesterday, and now I'm in sage time. Even if I wanted to do anything, I wouldn't be able to." Sage time. Zhao Min had never heard of this word before, but she was extremely smart and could roughly guess the meaning with just a little context. She couldn't help but spit, "Pervert." Song Qingshu shrugged and also found a comfortable place to lie down in the horse carriage. When Zhao Min saw this, she immediately became anxious. "What are you doing?" "Let's sleep," Song Qingshu said as he adjusted his posture. "Then where do I sleep?" Zhao Min was anxious. "There's so much space in the horse carriage. Can't you just find a place to sleep?" Song Qingshu replied indifferently. But, Zhao Min looked at the space in the horse carriage. It wasn't small, but it wasn't big either. If she were to lie down, it would feel like she was sharing a bed. "It's not like we haven't slept in the same bed before. Why are you so shy?" Song Qingshu saw through her thoughts at a glance and said teasingly, "Don't worry, I won't do anything to you. Who has slept with you before?" Zhao Min snorted a little guiltily, but in the end, she still couldn't fight the strong sleepiness, so she reluctantly found a place to lie down. Because she was worried that she would touch Song Qingshu's body, she tried her best to stay in the corner, distancing herself from him. When Song Qingshu saw this, he couldn't help but laugh. He was too lazy to say anything and just went to sleep. At first, Zhao Min was worried that Song Qingshu would do something, but soon she heard a light sound next to her. It was obvious that Song Qingshu had fallen asleep. This bastard tossed and turned last night. No wonder he fell asleep so quickly. Zhao Min cursed with a red face and quickly fell asleep. After an unknown amount of time, the wheel of the horse carriage was knocked by a stone on the road. Zhao Min subconsciously woke up. Just as she secretly opened her eyes, she found that Song Qingshu's face was close to hers, and she subconsciously wanted to scream. But she quickly noticed that it was her sleeping posture that was hugging him, and not him hugging her. Her face turned red, and she forcibly stopped screaming. Zhao Min was born on the grasslands, so she naturally wasn't as quiet and delicate as the noble ladies of Jiangnan. She usually slept carelessly. The noble ladies of Jiangnan had been bound by all kinds of rules since childhood. Once they made a mistake, they would be punished, so they practiced from a young age to pay attention to their manners when they slept. But in Mongolia, Zhao Min was surrounded by rough men, so no one cared about this. So Zhao Min's sleeping posture was more open. You got lucky." Zhao Min carefully withdrew her hands and feet from the other's body. Feeling the movement on his body, Song Qingshu also woke up. Seeing Zhao Min's rosy cheeks, he couldn't help but ask curiously, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Zhao Min turned around and tidied up the messy clothes on her body. "I'm awake. Oh, I'm also almost asleep." Song Qingshu got up and stretched. Suddenly, he lowered his head and sniffed the clothes on his body. "Hey, why does it smell so good?" Zhao Min's heart skipped a beat, and she hurriedly said, "Since you're awake, teach me martial arts." "Huh?" Song Qingshu didn't react for a moment. This topic seemed to jump a bit too much. Zhao Min also felt that it was a little abrupt, so she hurriedly explained, "You've seen it. I'm always bullied by Zhou Zhuo just because her kung fu is higher than mine. Once she gets angry, she will attack me. I don't want to be controlled by her like this all the time." Song Qingshu smiled bitterly and said, "If your martial arts is as high as Zhuo's, and with your intelligence, won't you always bully Zhuo to death?" Zhao Min snorted. "You underestimate your family's woman. She is more cunning than anyone else." Song Qingshu still shook his head resolutely and refused. "No. How can I teach you martial arts to bully my own woman? I'm not that kind of scumbag. Ah, Qing Shu, brother song, brother song. In order to suppress Zhou Zhuruo in the future, Zhao Min gritted her teeth and directly hugged his arm, shaking it while acting coquettishly. Her voice was usually clear and crisp, but now she deliberately acted coquettishly like honey. Song Qingshu's heart beat wildly when he heard this, and he hurriedly said, "It's useless no matter how sweet your mouth is. I have always taught martial arts to my own woman. You're not my woman. Why would I teach it to you?" No matter how thick Zhao Min's skin was, at this time, she couldn't say anything to make him her woman. However, she has always been cunning, and her eyes turned, and she immediately came up with a plan. Yesterday, she was full of confidence when she made the bet with the author, but today, the result was that only 114 people downloaded and registered. It seemed that she had most likely lost the bet. Previously, in the public account, she had agreed that if the number of downloads reached a few thousand, she would continuously update 10,000 words for a few days. She originally thought that she would die of exhaustion, but it seemed that it didn't even reach 10,000 words. However, today, the monk would still update 10,000 words to thank the enthusiastic readers for their support. Chapter 1471. Although I'm not your woman, but Zhao Min changed the topic and moved closer to Song Qingshu. Do you think I'm beautiful? Song Qingshu was stunned. Where's she playing at? But in the end, he still nodded. Your Highness, you're as brilliant as a rose and as beautiful as a peach. If you're not beautiful, then there's no beautiful woman in the world. Although she knew that his words were filled with flattery, when Zhao Min heard the words, as brilliant as a rose and as beautiful as a peach, she was still very pleased. Then what do you think of my personality? Passionate as fire and willing to give up everything for love. You're the ideal wife for any man. Song Qingshu wasn't lying. In his previous life, Zhao Min's popularity on the internet had far surpassed that of Zhou Zhuruo. In fact, both of them had their own merits in terms of appearance and intelligence. The reason why there was such a big difference was that Zhao Min was willing to give up her glory and wealth for love. She was even willing to betray her own country. But Zhou Zhuo sacrificed her love to a certain extent for her own career. A woman desperately threw herself at the male protagonist, while the other did things that harmed the male protagonist's interests for her own benefit. From a woman's point of view, she would think that Zhao Min was too much and had no soul of her own. On the contrary, Zhou Zhuruo had the advantages of a modern woman. But from a man's point of view, he still preferred women like Zhao Min who gave up everything for love. Zhao Min was very satisfied with his answer. She didn't continue to ask about his intelligence because she often heard people say, "Then what do you think of me? Do you like me?" Song Qingshu had a strange look on his face. "You're not asking me to marry you, are you?" Tui, Zhao Min spat and blushed. "Just answer the question directly. I think you're pretty good. Who wouldn't like someone like the princess?" Song Qingshu praised. "But right now, the world is in chaos. A beautiful woman like me is wandering in the martial world. If I were to encounter a thief with evil intentions, something unimaginable would happen. You don't want such a tragic thing to happen to me, right?" Zhao Min pretended to be pitiful as she spoke. Song Qingshu was speechless. So this was what he had been talking about. "You're the Mongolian princess. Usually you have a large group of highly skilled fighters with you. Now that you have me by your side, what do you have to worry about?" Zhao Min curled her lips. "Although the masters of my residence are not bad, there are many talented people in the world. As the saying goes, there is always someone better than you. Have you forgotten what happened last time?" Song Qingshu knew that she was talking about the attack by the people of the Isle of Heroes in the ruined temple. There were so many highly skilled fighters on the Isle of Heroes. Even if Zhao Min had many powerful fighters by her side, they would not be able to protect her. Now that I'm by your side to protect you, I don't believe that anyone in the world can hurt you. Song Qingshu's tone revealed a strong sense of confidence. Zhao Min pouted. "You can't protect me forever. So what if I protect you forever?" Song Qingshu was so excited that he almost blurted it out. However, he was no longer the reckless young man he used to be. In the end, he did not say out loud. After all, he could not protect her all the time. There would always be times when he could not be there to protect her. Just teach me some martial arts. If you are worried that I will learn how to bully Zhou, then teach me martial arts for escaping. That way, when I face danger, I will have a unique skill to protect my life. Zhao Min blinked her big eyes. Her voice was very sweet and coquettish. All right. I'm scared of you, Song Qingshu said helplessly. Zhao Min's eyes lit up. She put her hands together in front of her chest and patted her chest. She was very happy. Wait for a second, Song Qingshu said to Zhao Min. Then, he opened the door of the carriage and said to the driver, "Stop the carriage." After the carriage stopped, Song Qingshu pulled Zhao Min out of the carriage. He said to the soldiers, "You guys go back to Yangzhou City. We will continue on our way. Leave a few horses here." Previously, the two of them were too tired and needed to rest in the carriage. Now that the two of them had woken up, the soldiers had completed their mission. There was no need for them to stay. After all, he could not openly go to the Jin Kingdom this time. It would be too obvious if he had these soldiers with him. On the other hand, he subconsciously wanted to be alone with Zhao Min. It would be weird if there were a few extra third wheels. Yes, Your Highness. The soldiers did not try to be brave. After all, they had seen Song Qingshu descend from the sky and subdue Li Keqiu. If they were to be with him, they would not know who would be protecting who when there was danger. Soon, the soldiers drove the carriages back to the city. Song Qingshu pulled Zhao Min to an open space and said, "Although your martial arts are good, you are still far from being a peerless master. If you want to have the ability to protect yourself in any situation, the best way is to learn a peerless Qigong. I just happened to get my hands on the wave-like subtle steps recently, and it can be said to be unparalleled in the world when it comes to moving and dodging." Wave-like subtle steps. Zhao Min repeated it. Is it the lightness skill of Duan of Dali? She used to deal with Jianghu affairs for Riyang Mansion and collected a lot of information. Duan Yu's lightness skill played a lot of roles in Jianghu. That's right, this is the lightness skill that he knows. However, this lightness skill comes from the mysterious carefree sect. Song Qingshu roughly explained the origin and advantages of this lightness skill. Zhao Min nodded slightly and said, "Back then, the Crown Prince of Dali didn't know Kung Fu, but he was able to turn misfortunes into blessings. The effect of wave-like subtle steps is obvious. Wave-like subtle steps is a footwork in name, but it actually tests one's internal energy. If one's internal energy is not enough, it is easy to be possessed by the devil." Song Qingshu was about to explain the essence of wave-like subtle steps to her, but Zhao Min interrupted him. "I don't want to learn this." Song Qingshu was stunned and asked, "Then what do you want to learn?" Wave-like subtle steps was the standard lightness skill recognized by almost all time travelers. It could be seen how top-notch this lightness skill was. In the whole world of the Golden Book, it was one of the best. "What is the lightness skill you are best at?" Zhao Min suddenly asked. "My current lightness skill is so good mainly because of my profound internal energy. But all the foundation is still the traceless sand steps I learned in the beginning." Song Qingshu answered. "Traceless sand steps." Zhao Min's eyes lit up. The one that the stinky bat from the Ming dynasty knew? Song Qingshu was speechless, but he still nodded in the end. Yes, traceless sand steps was indeed the green-winged bat king, Wei Yixiao's famous unique skill. "Then I will learn this," Zhao Min said excitedly. "Why?" Song Qingshu smiled bitterly. Wave-like subtle steps and traceless sand steps are both lightness skills of the same level. In terms of movement and evasion, wave-like subtle steps is better, and it is more suitable for women to practice. "I want to learn the same as you." Zhao Min looked at him quietly with a faint smile on her lips. Looking at the incomparably beautiful girl in front of him, who seemed to have a suffocating beauty, Song Qingshu's breathing quickened a bit. "I boast that I am good at flirting with girls, but I didn't expect the princess to also be an expert at flirting." Zhao Min's face was bright red, and she said with a bright smile, "Have you been flirted with by me?" Looking at the beauty's sweet smile, Song Qingshu couldn't help but lean over and kiss her tender red lips. Because his movements were too fast, Zhao Min couldn't react at all. Feeling his lips, her eyes couldn't help but widen, and at the same time, her heart was beating fast. Her eyelashes trembled slightly, and Zhao Min gradually closed her eyes. She didn't have her usual high spirits, and she was completely bashful, waiting for him to do whatever he wanted. But just as she closed her eyes, the scene she saw in Zhou Zhiruo's room last night suddenly appeared in her mind. At the same time, the voice that had tortured her for the whole night rang in her ears. Her pink face instantly flushed red, and she pushed the man away. "What are you doing?" Song Qingshu was confused. He didn't understand why she would suddenly change her expression when she had clearly opened her mouth and allowed him to enter her without any hesitation. Maybe it's because of a young girl's modesty. Song Qingshu thought he found a reason. Looking at her angry expression, he knew that it was not a good time to mention what had happened just now. So he quickly changed the topic. "I'll teach you how to step on the sand without leaving a trace." Zhao Min was about to explode, but after hearing this, she could only suppress her anger in her heart. This bastard is quite cunning. But she didn't think of how to hold him accountable for what had happened just now, so she simply didn't mention it again. Next, Song Qingshu began to teach Zhao Min the trick to step on the sand without leaving a trace. She was talented and learned very quickly, and it didn't take long for her to learn it. The only thing she lacked was proficiency. Of course, there was also the speed brought by the level of her internal energy. I'll say the ugly things first. Without my permission, you can't teach this martial art to anyone else. Otherwise, I'll kill you, and I'll also kill the person you taught this martial art to. Song Qingshu purposely intimidated him. I know that you Jianghu people are the most selfish. Zhao Min curled her lips and raised her hand to swear. I swear I won't teach this martial art to anyone else. If I break this oath, then... She paused and said with a smile, I'll marry you. How about that? Song Qingshu's heart jumped. In order to hide the unnatural feeling in his heart, he hurriedly said, what if you deliberately teach this martial art to someone else in order to marry me? Zhao Min raised her fist and punched him. She laughed and scolded. You wish. No, change it. If you break your oath and marry into my family, you'll have to serve Zhiruo every day. Bring her tea and water, massage her shoulders and legs. The smile on Song Qingshu's face grew wider as he spoke. You're too vicious. Zhao Min instantly exploded. She took her luggage and chased after him. The two continued on their journey amid such laughter. With a beauty accompanying them, the journey was naturally not boring. Even time seemed to have sped up. Every 2 days, the two would enter the territory of the Jin Kingdom. On this day, they arrived at the border of Mount Song. The two were talking and laughing when suddenly the sound of fighting came from the forest in front of them. In the distance, they saw a group of people chasing after a few people. Hey, isn't that Xiao Feng? Zhao Min recognized one of the people being chased and could not help but exclaim. Chapter 1472. Song Qingshu furrowed his brows. He had recognized Xiao Feng before Zhao Min did. However, at this moment, Xiao Feng did not have his usual heroic spirit. He was being carried on someone else's back, and his face was weary. It was obvious that he had suffered serious internal injuries. At the same time, what surprised Song Qingshu even more was that there were two acquaintances with Xiao Feng. One of them was wearing a scarlet dress. It was a Zhu, whom he hadn't seen for many years. Back in Swallow Dock, it was all thanks to the disguise technique she taught him that he was able to deceive everyone all these years. The other girl in purple was Z. Some time ago, he heard from the Golden Snake Camp that Z had escaped. Song Qingshu did not take it seriously. After all, she did not mean much to him. However, why was she with Xiao Feng and as of now? Was this the so-called plot correction power? At this time, the one carrying Xiao Feng was a tall and burly man. Unfortunately, his face could not be seen because he was wearing a black scarf. However, it could be seen that his kung fu was extraordinary. He was still able to run fast while carrying a person. On the contrary, Azu and Z could not keep up with him. Behind them, there was a group of people chasing from afar. Song Qingshu looked at them, and his expression became more and more strange. They were all old acquaintances. The leader was a burly man in a kasaya, but his face was full of killing intent. He was Xian Cheng, the first monk of Shaolin in the past 200 years. The other man was kind and had white hair and beard. He was Master Fang Zheng. The other man had a shiny bald head and a dignified look on his face. He was the abbot of the Shaolin Temple, Great Master Xian Ci. Song Qingshu and Zhang Sanfeng had come to Shaolin Temple together to meet him. Beside them stood a kind-hearted monk, while the other had a bitter look on his face, with the corners of his mouth drooping down. They were Kong Wen and Kong Ji, two of the four great divine monks of Shaolin. Kong Jian had fallen into Xie Sun's trap and died at the hands of Xie Sun, while Kong Xing had competed with Zhao Min's subordinate, Ah San, in terms of finger strength and was defeated and beheaded. The four great divine monks of Jianghu in the past only existed in name. There were quite a number of eminent monks around. Song Qingshu did not recognize many of them, but judging from their attire, they were either eminent monks of the Xian generation or experts of the Kong generation. Among this group of eminent monks, there was a person dressed in low-level disciple clothing that was particularly conspicuous. He had a plain appearance, thick eyebrows, and slightly upturned nostrils. Although the other eminent monks were quite old, they could all be considered good-looking. Although this young monk was young, he was the ugliest one. However, Song Qingshu did not look down on him because he was Shuzhu, who had shown brilliantly in the Golden Snake meeting. Although he was young, his martial arts were extremely high. Among all the monks present, he was definitely in the top 3 in terms of martial arts. I wonder where Shuzhu learned the carefree sect's martial arts. Song Qingshu had asked Li Qingluo and Fu Mini before, but none of them knew who Shuzhu's master was. In addition, there had never been an exquisite chess game in this world, so Shuzhu's origin was very suspicious. Is there another branch of the carefree sect hidden in the Shaolin Temple? An idea came to Song Qingshu's mind. After all, from what he had experienced in the past 2 years, the carefree sect was extremely mysterious. At the same time, there were many branches of the carefree sect, such as the Misty Peak, the Xixia Imperial Palace, the Fairyland, and several princes of Chiron. It was not impossible that one of them was hidden in the Shaolin Temple. While Song Qingshu was distracted, he saw Xian Cheng, Fang Zheng, Xian Ci, and Shuzhu jump up and scatter around, blocking the way of Xiao Feng and his party. Soon, the rest of the Shaolin monks caught up and surrounded Xiao Feng and the other 3. No wonder Xiao Feng was seriously injured. I'm afraid no one in the world can get away with being besieged by so many top martial arts masters. Song Qingshu secretly frowned. If there were only a few martial arts masters, it would be fine. But with so many people, he was afraid that he could only avoid them. Let's go and watch the fun. Zhao Min looked excited, as if she wanted to see the world in chaos. Watch the fun. Song Qingshu smiled bitterly. There are so many martial arts masters. If we're not careful, we might lose our lives. No matter how good their martial arts are, can they be better than you? Zhao Min rolled her eyes, patted his chest, and said, "Hurry up." Song Qingshu did not know whether to laugh or cry. This was the difference between Zhao Min and Zhou Zhuhua. If Zhou Zhuhua was here, she would not be so mischievous. Deep down, she was quite serious. Only someone like Zhao Min, who was full of romanticism, would be so fearless. "Hurry up," Zhao Min urged again. In his helplessness, Song Qingshu could only hold on her waist and execute his peerless movement technique to silently approach her. And then he hid on top of a nearby large tree with dense foliage. Actually, even if Zhao Min didn't urge him, he would still come over. After all, no matter if it was a Zhu or Xiao Feng, both of them had an extremely deep relationship with him. So how could he possibly stand by idly and watch them die? However, he was not in a hurry to make a move. He wanted to see what was going on first. Zhao Min blushed slightly when he hugged her waist so intimately. But for the past 2 years, It had become normal for the two of them to hug each other. She was already used to it. Soon, she turned her attention to the empty space not far away. Xiao Feng, you bastard, you won't be able to escape today, even if you have wings. Kong Ji shouted angrily. Among the four divine monks, Kong Jian had the highest cultivation in Buddhism, followed by Kong Wan, and Kong Xing and Kong Ji. Therefore, they were the first to lose control. Fang Zheng sighed and said, Junior brother, you are violating the precepts again. Xian Cheng said coldly, Senior brother, you are wrong. As the saying goes, even Buddha can be angry and roar like a lion. Xiao Feng, that bastard, killed his own master, Master Xian Ku. Last time, we didn't catch him. This time, he finally walked into the trap. We should do justice on behalf of heaven. What's wrong with that? Fang Zheng frowned slightly. In fact, he had always felt that Xian Cheng was a bit too murderous. But Xian Cheng's kung fu was extremely high, and he had a high status in the temple. It was not convenient for him to say anything. On the tree, Song Qingshu felt strange. Although Xiao Feng looked like a boorish man, he had always been meticulous and brave. Why would he walk into the trap so unwisely? I didn't kill my master, Xiao Feng said angrily. There must be a traitor behind this. Traitor? I think you are a traitor, Xian Cheng said angrily. Before senior brother Xian Ku died, he pointed at you. There were a few other disciples in the temple who saw you enter senior brother Xian Ku's meditation room. The evidence is irrefutable. Do you still dare to deny it? Xiao Feng's face showed a trace of grief and indignation. He immediately said to the man in black who was carrying him, Senior, please let me down. This has nothing to do with you. With your kung fu, if you want to leave, you might have a chance. He didn't ask the man to take Azu or Z with him because he knew that with so many Lin Temple masters surrounding them, the man might not be able to escape alone. If he took the two girls with him, he would definitely die on the spot. The man in black laughed, and there was a trace of heroism in his laughter. If a man dies, then so be it. What's the big deal? How can I be a greedy person who is afraid of death? Song Qingshu's face showed a strange expression. The man in black's laughter was full of vigor. Obviously, his kung fu was no weaker than Xiao Feng's. However, Xiao Feng's kung fu was already among the top in Jianghu. He was not nameless. Could it be that person? Xiao Feng's personality had always been heroic. When he heard the man in black's words, he couldn't help but laugh. I haven't even seen Senior's face, but it seems that we have known each other for a long time. Well, let's fight together. Even if we die, we must die a glorious death. As soon as these words came out, the Shaolin monks' expressions changed. They were very clear about the kung fu of Xiao Feng and the man in black. Now, although they could kill them with the advantage of numbers, if the other side fought with their lives, they would certainly suffer many losses. Who knew how many monks would die here today? The king of the southern yard, Xiao Feng, is indeed a match for tens of thousands of people. Even at the end of the road, he still has such vigor. Zhao Min's tone was full of admiration and appreciation. She was worried that those people would hear her, so she moved her mouth close to Song Qingshu's ear and said these words. Song Qingshu secretly broke out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, the Shaolin monks' attention was focused on Xiao Feng and the others. They were worried that they would suddenly launch an attack. Otherwise, even though Zhao Min's voice was soft, it would be difficult to hide it from some of the experts. Xiao Feng is indeed an indomitable hero. Song Qingshu couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Then are you going to save them? Zhao Min looked at him with a smile that was not a smile. Song Qingshu said in a deep voice, It's a bit tricky. Let's wait and see first. The man in black also laughed. Worthy of being a good man, am I chitin? You're not as bashful as these southern people. Xiao Feng was startled. He happily said, Senior is also a chitin? The man in black laughed. Of course I am a chitin. Xian Cheng said coldly. You don't have to put on a show of appreciation here. In any case, you will all die here today. He noticed that the two men's heroic spirit seemed to have taken away the momentum of the scene with just a few words. His side's morale was faintly low. He was sensitive to the fact that he couldn't let them continue, so he deliberately interrupted them. As he spoke, a strong, murderous aura suddenly rushed out. Seeing that a battle was about to break out, Azu held Xiao Feng's hand and said slowly, "Brother Xiao, the leader must be among these people. That's why he slandered you like this, hoping to use the temple's experts to kill you." Song Qing-shu, who was on the tree, suddenly understood. No wonder Xiao Feng had walked into the trap. It turned out that he had gone to investigate the leader. But with his meticulousness and intelligence, he shouldn't have fallen into such a desperate situation. Why was he besieged by so many experts, as if they were waiting for him? What leader? I don't know what you're talking about. Xian Cheng snorted coldly. Xiao, don't try to divert attention. 30 years ago, my parents took me, who was still in swaddling clothes, home to visit relatives, who knew that when they passed through Yinmen Pass, they would be attacked by a group of experts from the Southern Dynasty. That battle could be said to be dark and gloomy, with countless casualties. My parents and clansmen were all killed, and the experts from the Southern Dynasty were almost completely wiped out. I investigated many times and found out that it was the leader who organized this operation. I just want to ask him, my parents are just commoners. Why did he bring people to do such a vicious thing? Ba, Master Feng Zheng said. What happened 30 years ago can only be said to be a freak accident. But almsgiver Xiao said that your father was just a commoner. This statement is somewhat untrue. Your father was the chief instructor of the Khitan Palace's division army, and could be said to have a high position and power. Otherwise, with just him and the deployment that accompanied him, how could they almost completely wipe out the ambush of the Southern Dynasty experts? Gong Fenjun, Song Qing-shu was startled. Because Liao had declined and was no longer a threat, he had not studied the intelligence of Liao in detail when he was in the imperial palace of the Jin Kingdom and the Qin Kingdom. Therefore, when he heard about Gong Fenjun, he was somewhat confused. As if sensing his confusion, Zhao Min moved closer to his ear and explained, in the early days of Liao, the Imperial Guard army was divided into two groups. One was subordinate to the emperor and was called the Paisher army. Paisher means King Kong in the Khitan language. The other was under the empress and was called the Shushan army, which was the treasure of the coral. However, as the kingdom of Liao gradually settled down, the Pishi army and the Shushan army gradually became the troops for expeditions and border defense, and the imperial army was replaced by another army. Every soldier in this army was carefully selected from the 12 palaces of the kingdom of Liao, so this new army was also called the Palace Division. The third update has been completed. Thank you to all the readers for your enthusiastic support. Chapter 1473. As Zhao Min spoke into his ear, Song Qing-shu finally understood what it meant to exhale like orchids. As her breath brushed against his skin, he felt as if his heartstrings were being plucked by someone. As for the 12 palaces and one mansion that she mentioned, it was a special administrative unit in the kingdom of Liao. Every emperor of the kingdom of Liao would establish his own Orudo, which was the political, economic, and military organization that the emperor, his concubines, and the princes personally controlled. There were government offices, officers, armies, farms, prefectures, counties, and people engaged in production and service in the palace. The income of the Harudo was the owner's private property. The people in the palace were guards when they enter and retainers when they leave. If there is a transfer, the young and strong join the army, and the old and weak stay in the palace. After the death of the emperor, the concubines and descendants inherited the throne. There were a total of 13 Harudos in Liao, including the 9 emperors, the 2 empresses, Shulu Yulidwa and Jingzong Empress Xiaozhua, the 12 Harudos of the emperor's younger brother, Xiaoan Emperor's younger brother Yelu Longqing, and the Prince Wenzhong's mansion built by Prime Minister Handarong. Xiao Feng's father was the instructor of the Harudo army, which showed his extraordinary martial arts and unique status. Song Qing-shu thought to himself. He remembered that in the original work, Xiao Yuanshan was the chief instructor of the Harudo army. However, in this world, Liao was in decline, and the power of the Liao Empress had declined to the extreme. The Haruto army existed only in name, so it was reasonable that Xiao Yuanshan became the chief instructor of the Haruto army. Master, you also know what happened in the past. Hearing Feng Zheng's words, Xiao Feng was surprised and happy. He hurriedly asked, "May I ask who the leader was?" Feng Zheng shook his head. "The past is gone with the wind. Why does almsgiver Xiao need to kill again?" Xiao Feng hurriedly said, "I've been investigating who the leader was. Other than wanting to avenge my parents, it's also because the people who knew about it have died one after another recently. I think the leader killed to hide his identity." "Nonsense," Kong Ji said angrily. "That leader is a man of virtue and prestige. How could he be the devil you speak of? It was you who killed Madan, Elder Tan, and Elder Su. You even killed my teacher, Xin Ku. You are the most heinous devil. Don't try to shift the blame for your crimes onto others. From what Master Kong Ji said, it seems like you also know the leader." Azu suddenly said. Kong Ji held his breath and snorted. "So what if we know each other? Little girl, you don't have to try to trick me. I won't tell you." Azu still wanted to say something, but the man in black next to Xiao Feng raised his hand to stop her. "Don't waste your energy. Of course, they won't say anything, because the leader is someone they will risk their lives to protect." Xiao Feng's expression changed. From Senior's tone, "Could it be that you also know who the leader is?" "Of course I know," the man in black said proudly. His gaze slowly swept across the monks in the front row, making them feel extremely uncomfortable. "Who is that person?" Xiao Feng, who had been tracking down the leader along the way, couldn't help but feel excited when the truth was about to be revealed. The man in black shook his head. "It's not the time yet." "What do you mean?" Xiao Feng was startled. The man in black explained, "You and I are surrounded today. It can be said that the odds are against us. In addition, everyone here is from the Shaolin Temple. Even if the leader's identity is exposed, it won't help. Instead, it may harm the lives of these two girls." Xiao Feng understood what he meant. The Shaolin Temple had always prided itself on being a righteous sect. Even if he and this senior couldn't escape today, they probably wouldn't make things difficult for Azu and Z. However, if the two girls knew the identity of the leader, they might bring trouble to themselves. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind, and he blurted out, "The leader is from the Shaolin Temple." As soon as this statement came out, the monks of the Shaolin Temple all changed their expressions. The man in black showed a look of admiration, but he quickly said, "If we are lucky enough to escape this time, it won't be too late to tell you then. Well, in order to know the result, I will save my life no matter what." Xiao Feng laughed loudly. Although he was seriously injured at this time, there was a kind of heroic spirit at this time. Although there were many people in the Shaolin Temple, Feng Zheng and Kong, one were merciful, and the others lacked the fierce murderous spirit that Xiao Feng had honed on the battlefield, so their momentum was suppressed again. Xian Cheng snorted heavily. "Your Excellency, you are too optimistic. There are so many masters here today, you can't escape death." When he spoke, he used the secret method of the Buddhist lion's roar, which instantly cheered up his companions from their depressed mood. "Noisy," the man in black snorted coldly and suddenly moved. It could be said that he was like a rabbit leaping and a falcon descending. In an instant, he attacked in front of Xian Cheng. Obviously, he wanted to take advantage of the time when Xian Cheng had just used the lion's roar and had used up all his strength to injure him. After all, except for a few people who knew the sweeping monk Nameless, most people in Jianghu recognized Xian Cheng as the #1 master in the Shaolin Temple. He was one of the 13 divine monks, the #1 in the Shaolin Temple in the past 200 years. As long as he heavily injured him, not only could he get rid of a strong enemy, but he could also gain the upper hand by a show of strength. Xian Cheng was also shocked. Although his martial arts were extremely high, he was more inclined towards the academic side. In terms of adaptability, he couldn't compare to the man in black, who was an expert who had survived a bitter war. Therefore, he was found by the opponent to attack. In a hurry, Xian Cheng subconsciously waved his Buddhist staff and used his secret skill, the exorcism staff technique. Unfortunately, the man in black had already closed in on him. The subtlety of the exorcism staff technique was completely unable to be displayed. Before he could hit the opponent had already pressed his palm against his chest. The man in black's eyes were filled with joy. Just as he was about to use the power of his palm to take Xiancheng's life, he suddenly saw a golden light flash on Xiancheng's body. His palm power was like a clay ox entering the sea. Diamond, indestructible body. The man in black suddenly thought of something, and his expression changed greatly. At this time, Xiancheng had already reacted. He waved his palm and used the most profound prajna palm of the Shaolin Temple to counterattack. The man in black raised his palm to meet the attack. Seeing that the surrounding monks had already reacted, he hurriedly used the recoil to fly back to Xiaofeng's side. At this time, Song Qingshu had almost confirmed the identity of the man in black. With such high martial arts, who else could it be but Xiao Yuanshan, who was always helping Xiaofeng? Xiao Yuanshan is indeed worthy of being the existence who killed the experts of the Central Plains in the bloody battle at Yinmen Pass. This experience of facing an enemy is really admirable. The timing he chose was also perfect. If Xiancheng didn't have the diamond indestructible body technique to protect him, I'm afraid he would have already died on the spot. 13 ultimate divine monks. You really live up to your reputation. The man in black chuckled. Suddenly, his expression changed. With a cracking sound, the black cloth on his face suddenly shattered. It turned out that he had just suffered the recoil of the diamond indestructible body. In addition, Xiancheng's prajna palm counterattack had turned his shame into anger. In the end, he still didn't have enough time to completely negate the power of his opponent's palm, causing his mask to shatter. In an instant, cries of surprise rose in the surroundings. The group of people looked at him in shock. They saw that he had square eyes, a wide nose, a curly beard, and a very formidable appearance. He was about 60 years old. Although his beard and hair were slightly white, he had a valiant look on his face. But this was not what shocked the crowd the most. What shocked them the most was that apart from his age, this person in front of them looked exactly the same as Xiaofeng. Xiaofeng was surprised and happy at the same time. He rushed forward and knelt on the ground. With a trembling voice, he said, "You are my father." The man laughed loudly and said, good child, I am your father. The two of us, father and son, have the same appearance. There is no need to remember. Everyone knows that I am your father." He stretched out his hand and tore open the lapel on his chest, revealing a wolf's head with a tattoo. With his left hand, he pulled Xiaofeng up. Xiaofeng tore open the lapel of his robe, revealing the green wolf head on his chest, bearing its fangs. The two of them walked side by side. Suddenly, they looked up to the sky and howled at the same time. Their voices were like the roar of a fierce wind. It spread far and wide, shaking the entire valley. When everyone heard it, they all felt a chill. Although there were only two of them, their power was as great as a magnificent army with thousands of men and horses. Song Qingshu was full of admiration. "You really are heroic." Zhao Min, who was at the side, covered her ears and said unhappily, "So noisy." Xiaofeng took out an oilcloth bag from his chest and opened it. He took out a large piece of white cloth that was sewn together. He unfolded it. It was the rubbing of the inscriptions on the stone wall that monk Zhi Guang gave him. On it were hollow chitin characters. The curly-bearded old man pointed at the last few characters and said with a smile, "Xiao Yuanshan's last brush, Xiao Yuanshan's last brush. Haha, child, that day I was sad and jumped off the cliff to commit suicide. Who knew that I was not fated to die? I fell on a branch of a big tree at the bottom of the valley and unexpectedly did not die. Now that I have lost my will to die, I want to take revenge. That day outside Yinmen Pass, the heroes of the Central Plains killed your mother who did not know martial arts without asking the reason. Child, do you think this revenge should be taken?" Xiaofeng said, "The hatred of my parents is absolutely irreconcilable. How can I not take revenge?" Xiao Yuanshan said, "The people who killed your mother that day, most of them have already been killed by me. Monk Zhi Guang and that guy who called himself Zhao Qian's son have already been killed by me. The previous leader of the beggar clan, Wang Jiantong, died of an illness. Only that the leader of the great evil man is still alive and well. Child, what do you think we should do with him? Xiao Feng anxiously asked. Who is this person? Xiao Yuanshan let out a long whistle and shouted. Who is this person? His eyes were like lightning, sweeping across the faces of the monks. When the monks made eye contact with him, even though they knew that they had the upper hand, they still felt a sense of danger in their bones. Even though most of these people had nothing to do with what happened outside Yunmen Pass, but when they saw the expression of the Xiao father and son, no one dared to move or make a sound. They were afraid that they would attract trouble and be dragged down by the two of them before they died. Song Qingshu secretly sighed. In this way, Azu and Azi are in danger. Previously, Xiao Yuanshan did not say who the leader was because he was afraid that the other party would be driven to desperation and harm the lives of the two girls at the same time. But now that he was fighting with Xian Sheng and broke his mask, revealing his original appearance, his identity could no longer be hidden. In addition, he was reminded of the sad incident. So how could he care so much? But even if he did not care, Song Qingshu could not ignore it. Even though he did not have any feelings for Azi, she was still his woman. How could he let others deal with her? Especially Azu. He was indebted to her, so he could not let her encounter any danger. Xiao Yuanshan's gaze fell on Xianxi and said coldly, Abbot Xianxi's dharma is indeed profound, to be able to keep his composure even now. The few who knew the inside story all had their expressions change. The other Shaolin disciples who did not know the inside story all subconsciously looked towards Xianxi. Xiao Feng was shocked and angry. Abbot Xianxi, the leader is actually you. One must know that he had interacted with Xianxi before, and even fought with him twice. He was very impressed with his martial arts and character. Who would have thought that he was actually the evil person that he had been searching for so long? Abbot Xianxi put his palms together. Good, good. Since there is karma, there will be karma. Even though I was deceived by scoundrels in the Yunmen Pass incident, I still cannot absolve myself from the blame for the tragic death of your parents and clansmen. He had just pulled out his wisdom tooth today and lost a lot of blood. In addition, he could only drink some porridge for the whole day, so it did not take long for him to feel dizzy from hunger. Chapter 1474. So it was you. Xiao Feng was furious. Xianxi sighed. Ba, Xiao Feng said angrily. When you killed my mother, you could say it was a misunderstanding. Although you were reckless, you didn't do it on purpose. But in order to hide your identity, you killed my adoptive father and adoptive mother, the Qiao couple, Zhao Qian's son, Elder Tan and Grandma Tan. You didn't even let my master Xian cool off. You are worse than a beast. Xianxi was surprised and said, What do you mean by that? Didn't they all die in the hands of layman Xiao? At this moment, Xian Sheng had also recovered from the surprise attack. Because he had just suffered a loss, he became even angrier when he heard Xiao Chen's words. Xiao Chen, don't slander me. Everyone knows that my senior brother is a person of virtue and prestige. He is not the kind of person you're talking about. Moreover, those people were clearly killed by you. Many people witnessed senior brother Xian Ku's death, and you still dare to argue. Just as Xiao Feng was about to explain, Xiao Yuanshan laughed loudly and said, Child, you are wrong. Xiao Feng was stunned and said, Child is wrong. Xiao Yuanshan nodded and said, Wrong. The Qiao couple was killed by me. Xiao Feng was shocked and said with a trembling voice, Father killed them? Then why? Xiao Yuanshan said, You are my son. Originally, we were reunited and happy. But these Southern Dynasty warriors treated us Khitan people like pigs and dogs. They killed at the slightest provocation and took my son away to someone else. The Qiao couple pretended to be your parents and took away my family happiness. They didn't tell you the truth, so they deserve to die. Xiao Feng's chest ached as he said, My adoptive father and adoptive mother have treated me with great kindness and righteousness. The two elders are very good people. But burning down the Dan village and killing Elder Tan and Grandma Tan, they were all. Xiao Yuanshan said, "Yes, it was all done by your father, who was the one who led the group to kill your mother." These people obviously knew, but didn't want to say it. They all protected him. Didn't they deserve to die? Xiao Feng was silent as he thought to himself, "The great villain that I have been searching for so long is actually my father. Where did this come from?" Slowly he said, "Shaolin Temple's Reverend Xian Ku personally taught me martial arts. For 10 years, I have never had a break in winter or summer. Today's achievement is all thanks to benevolent masters' nurturing." Speaking to this point, he lowered his head, his tiger-like eyes already brimming with tears. Xiao Yuanshan said, "These Southern Dynasty warriors are treacherous and treacherous. What good things do they have? I killed Xian Ku with a single palm strike." The Shaolin monks chanted in unison, "Amit Ba, Amit Ba." Their voices were filled with grief and indignation. Although no one stepped forward to challenge Xiao Yuanshan, the pain and agony contained in the chanting of the Buddhist scriptures clearly contained great determination. Today, they had to take the lives of Xiao Yuanshan and his son in revenge. Xiao Yuanshan continued, "Among the enemies who killed my beloved wife and snatched my only son, there were the beggar clan's Bangzhu and also Shaolin Pai's martial art masters. Hey, they only wanted to cover up this bloody crime forever, so they turned my son into a Han and made my son take the great enemy as his master, and then succeeded the great enemy as the beggar clan's Bangzhu. Haha, child, that night after I killed Xian Ku, I hid to the side. Not long after, you went to see that bald thief. Xian Ku saw that my father and I looked alike, so he thought that it was you who did it. Even that young monk couldn't tell us apart. Child, we Khitan people have been wronged and bullied by them. Isn't that enough?" Only now did Xiao Feng understand why Reverend Xian Ku was so shocked when he saw him that night, and why that young monk tried to prove that he was the one who killed Xian Ku. How could he have known that the real murderer was someone who looked like him, someone who was related to him by blood? Hearing all this, Zhao Min, who was on the tree, couldn't help but curl her lips. This Xiao Yuanshan has really been blinded by hatred. His brain is no longer normal. Other than harming his own son, what else can he do? She was previously in charge of managing the Central Plains Wulin in the Ryong Palace, so she naturally knew everything that had happened to Xiao Feng. Song Qing-shu had a strange expression on his face. Actually, he also agreed with Zhao Min's point of view. Other people were all harming their fathers, but in the whole demigods and semi-demigods, Xiao Yuanshan and Murong Bo could be said to be crazy for harming children. In terms of harming children, they were equally matched. You killed senior brother Xian Ku. Today, I will make you and your son pay in blood. Xian Cheng had just been put in a difficult position by Xiao Yuanshan, so he was anxious to regain his face. I was able to kill the Central Plains Wulin people in the past. Today, I can do the same. Xiao Yuanshan said proudly. As soon as he finished speaking, the whole place was filled with a murderous aura. You overestimate yourself. Xian Cheng heavily slammed the Buddhist staff in his hand on the ground, and a visible sound wave spread out. Many of the people with low cultivation felt so annoyed that they wanted to vomit. People like Azu and Azi couldn't even stand steadily. I hate this stinky monk. Zhao Min, who was on the tree, patted her chest and said softly, "It must be known that the reason why she was poisoned by Murong Jingyue's 3-corpse-brain divine pill was because she was attacked by Xian Cheng and injured by his great King Kong palm. She had no choice but to go to Kaifeng to seek treatment from Ping Yizhi. Who would have known that Ping Yizhi's real identity was actually Murong Jingyue? I also don't like him. Xian Cheng was brave and fierce, had a bad temper, and loved to be in the limelight. Song Qing-shu always felt that he was going against the duties of a monk. Xiao Yuanshan's expression suddenly changed, and he hurriedly jumped away from his original spot. With a few sizzling sounds, the tree behind him had 3 more burnt black fingerholes. Formless finger of disaster. Xiao Yuanshan's expression turned ugly. No wonder he had purposely used the Buddhist staff to hit the ground. It was to hide his true killing move. The formless finger of disaster was formless and invisible, and with his disguise, it was impossible to defend against. "You're a Buddhist, but you actually sneak attacked me," Xian Cheng snorted. "To deal with a shameless person like you, is there a need to follow the rules of the martial world? Furthermore, when you sneak attacked Senior Xianku, you didn't—" Before he could finish, a scream came from beside him. They saw that Kong Ji's chest had 3 horrifying bloody holes. If it wasn't for his profound cultivation, he would have died on the spot. But even so, he had already lost the ability to fight. Formless finger of disaster. This time, it was the Shaolin monk's turn to be shocked. Xiao Yuanshan laughed bitterly. Hee. That year, I didn't have the intention to steal the Shaolin Temple's martial arts manuals, but you have wrongly accused me. Good. Xiao Yuanshan will go all out. Since you guys have wronged me, I'll show you what I can do. These past 30 years, Xiao Yuanshan has been hiding in the Shaolin Temple, reading your martial arts manuals to his heart's content. A mere formless finger of disaster. What is it to me? Masters, please evaluate my formless finger of disaster. How is it? Song Qingshu was full of admiration. Although Xiao Yuanshan's brain wasn't working well, in terms of battle techniques, he was still a top-notch existence. He was able to cripple one of the opponent's top-notch experts so easily. It must be known that although Kong Ji was ranked last among the 4 great divine monks, he was proficient in 11 Shaolin martial arts. If it was a one-on-one fight, it wouldn't be easy for Xiao Yuanshan to defeat him. Compared to Song Qingshu's praise, the Shaolin monks were much angrier. What could be more infuriating than someone using your family's belongings to beat you up? Despicable. Shameless. All sorts of curses could be heard, but Xiao Yuanshan revealed a look of ridicule. Who was the one who said that when dealing with a despicable person, there is no need to follow the rules of the martial world? Xian Cheng's face turned green and red. At this moment, he was extremely sullen. He was obviously a martial artist, but he had lost twice in front of him. He had lost all his face. Give me your life. Xian Cheng decided not to give Xiao Yuanshan any more chances to play tricks. With a roar, he rushed towards Xiao Yuanshan like a golden cannonball. Along the way, it was as if there was a huge gust of wind. Sand and stones flew everywhere. Xiao Yuanshan's expression turned cold. After all, the opponent was known as the #1 in Shaolin in the last 200 years. He didn't dare to be careless. He hurriedly used his martial arts to meet him. In the blink of an eye, both sides had exchanged more than 10 moves. Skunda staff. This thief actually secretly learned the Skunda staff. Suddenly, one of the Shaolin monks exclaimed. Not only that, he even used the Prajna Palm just now. Heavens, the Prajna Palm is our temple's most profound fist technique. There aren't many people in the entire temple that can comprehend its essence. Yet he actually learned it. Another person recognized his palm technique and became even more astonished. Xian Xiai, Fang Zheng, and Kong Wen looked at each other, thinking that Xiao Yuanshan used to be the head instructor of the Liao Palace Division. They definitely couldn't let him leave alive today. Otherwise, if he passed down their sect's martial arts to the Khitan army, what would happen? The few of them were usually merciful people, but now that their sect's martial arts manuals were involved, all of them were filled with killing intent. This Xiao Yuanshan's martial arts are really high. He can actually fight evenly with Xian Cheng. Zhao Min, who was on the tree, spoke with slight surprise. In the past, the experts under her had fought with Xian Cheng, and they had suffered quite a few losses at his hands. Now that she saw Xiao Yuanshan going back and forth with him without the slightest bit of being at a disadvantage, she naturally exclaimed in admiration. Song Qingshu secretly frowned. He noticed that there were several times when Xiao Yuanshan clearly had the upper hand, but because his moves were too ruthless, the angle of his strength was off. And when experts fought, this little bit of deviation could bring about a completely different result. Looking at Xiao Yuanshan's expression, he doesn't seem to have realized that he has missed several good opportunities to defeat the enemy. Song Qingshu was secretly shocked and suddenly came to a realization. The changes in Xiao Yuanshan's martial arts could be said to be one of the most incomprehensible things in the Celestial Dragon sect. 30 years ago, he fought against 21 experts from the Central Plains by himself. Among them, there was no lack of experts like Xian Ci and the Beggar Clan's leader, but he still almost completely annihilated the 21 people. Even Murong Bo, who was secretly watching from the side, was scared witless. He returned to the Swallow Dock cellar and hid for 7 days and 7 nights. But 30 years later, Xian Ci and Xiao Yuanshan were already on par. Murong Bo also fought with him 3 times, and they couldn't decide the victor after several hundred moves. It must be known that in these 30 years, Xiao Yuanshan had been secretly learning martial arts from the Shaolin Temple. But Xian Ci and Murong Bo, who were far inferior to him back then, actually caught up and grew to the point where they were on par with him. It gave people a feeling that in these 30 years, Xiao Yuanshan had always been at the same place, waiting for them to catch up. In his previous life, Song Qingshu also didn't understand, but now that he was also cultivating martial arts, and his realm had reached an extraordinary height, he gradually understood what was going on. It must be known that a person's martial arts would not continue to increase forever. After reaching a certain height, if there was no fortuitous encounter or sudden enlightenment, the realm would be fixed for the rest of his life. Just like Wang Chongyang's evaluation of Zhou Batong, he believed that Zhou Batong was not broad-minded and narrow-minded, and was destined to not become an absolute expert. Sure enough, Zhou Batong's martial arts talent was extremely high, and he had even obtained Wang Chongyang's teachings, but his martial arts had always stopped at the level of Qiu Qianren. Although he was already a first-class expert in the Jianghu, he was still beaten by the 5 absolutes. Later on, when he cultivated the Nining Manual, coupled with his pure heart, he researched the left and right in-turf fighting technique, and his martial arts finally improved. From the beginning, he was beaten by Huang Yaoshi, and later on, the 5 absolutes admitted that they were inferior. Xiao Yuanshan was also in a similar situation. In his early years, he was a heroic man of the grasslands, open-minded and sunny, so his martial arts progress was extremely fast. But after the battle at Yinmen Pass, his heart was already distorted by hatred, and his style of doing things changed from being open and above-board to scheming. Therefore, although later on he secretly learned many unique skills from the Shaolin Temple, and on the surface it looked like he had improved a lot, but there was no qualitative improvement. In addition, the Shaolin Temple's martial arts required the corresponding Buddhist Dharma to neutralize it. His heart was only filled with the desire for revenge, and forcefully practicing the unique skills ended up causing internal injuries. According to the evaluation of the sweeping monk in the original work, Xiao Yuanshan fell into a martial arts barrier. He spent nearly 30 years, but still couldn't understand this martial arts barrier, causing his martial arts to never improve. In the end, Murong Bo, Xian Ci, and the others gradually caught up to him. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.